Would you like to do the verbal housekeeping?
Sure.
Okay, let me call the meeting to order. Yes, a little verbal housekeeping first. Please do. Thank you. Just let me know.
All right. Good morning, all. Thank you for attending today. This is just a quick verbal housekeeping. This is a public meeting and is being broadcasted as a webinar and is being recorded. If you can hear me but cannot see the presentations on your computer, you may access the webinar to webinar.com. Then type in the webinar ID and your email address
Okay, I
to
gotta go.
access
I'm online.
all presentations. The
Rachel,
webinar
come
ID
here. Put me on.
Tell them to mute it.
It's saying DRA staff.
We can
Turn
hear
on
you speaking.
Mute it, John, for a second.
Okay. Yes. The webinar ID for today is 899-951-731. Again, that is 899-951-731. When you are logged into the webinar, you will need to select the button that describes how you will listen using the computer audio or your telephone. Please select computer audio only if you have a headset. If you are using a telephone to dial in, please select the phone call button on the webinar information panel. You will then be given a phone number, access code, and a unique audio PIN. You must enter this PIN number on your telephone if you wish to speak during the session. If you do not enter this PIN number into your telephone, the moderator will not be able to take you out of listen-only mode and you will not be heard. Please note that you will be in listen-only mode until you request to speak. You may raise your hand or type your request to the moderator in the question panel or on the webinar screen.
Thank you all very much. So we're good? We're good to go. Good. Well, thank you very much. Let me call this meeting to order of the Florida Historical Commission. And if we could have the roll call, please.
All right. Good morning. Hope everyone can hear me okay from here. Is everyone hear me online? We good to go?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Cara Fleming. I'm the executive assistant here in DHR. I'll be calling the roll today, so when I call your name, please answer in the affirmative. I'll start with the folks who are in the room. Judy Bentz.
Here.
Kathleen Kaufman.
Here.
Parker Destin.
Here.
Michael Francis.
Here.
John Phelps.
He's here.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Trying to get my hearing aids working.
All right. John Browning.
Here.
David Drysdale.
I'm here if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. David Drysdale.
Here.
David Hoyt.
Here.
Rick Gonzalez. Nope. Okay. Did I miss anyone? I think so. Yes. Frank Terrafirma.
Yes, I'm present.
Okay. I believe that's just about everyone except Rick Gonzalez. So we have quorum.
Good. Only one answer. So the next item of business is to introduce ourselves. I'll start with the commission, and then we will go to the staff. My name is Judy Bentz. I'm an archaeologist and from Pensacola at the University of West Florida.
I'm Kathleen Kaufman. I'm currently the Historic Preservation Officer at the City of Gainesville, and I also sit on the National Register Review Board.
My name is Parker Destin. I own and operate restaurants and hospitality businesses in Northwest Florida. I represent one of the at-large seats on the commission.
Good morning. I'm Michael Francis. I'm Professor of History and Family Chair of Florida Studies at the University of South Florida, and I also sit on the National Register Review Board.
I'm John Phelps, retired, formerly director of the Historic Capitol Museum and a number of other things.
Now, Carol, why don't you call on the people who are online, since I don't have a list, and ask them to introduce themselves.
Okay. When I call your name, please answer and introduce yourself. John Browning.
Yes, I'm John Browning, and I'm with the Goodman Company, and I'm the Florida's Transportation Commissioner.
Okay. Right. David Drysdale.
Yes, I'm from St. Augustine, Florida, associated with the alligator farm in St. Augustine that's been here since 1893. I'm on the Board of Trustees of Flagler College and also the Board of Trustees of the Lightner Museum.
All righty. And David Hoyt?
Hi, my name is David Hoyt. I'm in Jacksonville and am Executive Director at School Boards for Academic Excellence, and recently joined the Board of Young Americans for Liberty.
All righty. Frank Terraferma?
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute. Frank Terraferma, I'm a local Tallahassee resident, involved in various historical things here in Tallahassee, namely the first Florida Capitol replica exhibit in Cascades Park.
All right, and we just had Rick Gonzalez join. If you would please introduce yourself.
Good morning. Oops.
We can hear you.
Good morning, all. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, Rick Gonzalez, West Palm Beach-based REG Architects. Nice to be here.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen. And now, why don't we start with Madam Director and introduce the staff.
Alyssa Lochain, I'm the Director of the Division of Historical Resources, and I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer.
Angie Tomlinson, Assistant Director over Preservation and Operations.
Hello, I'm Ruben Acosta. I'm the Bureau Chief for Historic Preservation.
John Grandage, I'm the Assistant Director over Construction Outreach and the Museum.
Hi, you heard my voice earlier. Cara Fleming, the Executive Assistant here in DHR. Happy to be here. Hi, I'm Alexa Bolton. You also heard my voice a little earlier.
Jeremy Hiker, I'm the coordinator for the Historical Marker Program. I'll be moderating your webinar today.
Hi, I'm Katie Miar. I'm the Bureau Chief Bureau of Archaeological Research and the State Archaeologist for Florida.
Hi, I'm Eric Hayes, the Grants Program Supervisor for DHR.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hu. I'm Grant Specialist here at DHR. I'm Hope Evans. I'm a Historic Preservationist in DHR.
Hi, I'm Lance Adams. I'm an intern in DHR.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Yep. Ed, there's stuff online if you want to.
Oh, yes.
Jeremy, you can just tell us who they are.
Sam Schmidt, Sarah Lico, and Tyler Smith are all.
Good. Thank you. And so the first order of business really is adoption of the agenda. I know we all have a copy of it, but I ask you to review it. And if one of you will make a motion to either amend or approve. I
move approval.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda for today's Historical Commission meeting, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Good, thank you. The next one is minutes for our last meeting, which was back in May on the 16th. The staff provided us copies of the minutes, and hope you've taken a chance to, a minute to look over the draft minutes, and are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Yes.
Can you just please fix my last name in item 4?
Sorry.
It's okay. It's spelled 4 different ways in here. It's,
I'm sorry.
One of them might have been right.
Item 4 and item 11. That's fine. I'm sorry.
Gotta get the name right. There were too many letters
I know.
in your name.
Too many.
Right. Any other additions or corrections? If that's the case, we're good. I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 16th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen. And any discussion? All in favor of adopting the minutes for the May 16th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I forgot to ask all opposed last time. Thank you very much. The motion carries. All right. My got crazy. I know that, Alyssa will give us details, and, I think we need to discuss it later in the, meeting, of not just what happened, but what to do next. I think that's my major concern. And, it was surprised, and we need to do something. Other than that, things are okay, you know. I don't have any suggestions. We're looking at special category grant, review, next month, and it always is hard for me to review them after we've gotten a bad session. And, it's a lot of work, and I know that none of us want to do it, but we will. And, so that's coming up, and, but anyway, that's all those comments I have. I'm just kind of worried about special category. And now, Madam Director, your comment.
Thank you. All right. Well, good morning. Thank you for all for joining us at the RA Gray building. Next time, I promise we'll have it at the meeting at a more fun location. We're looking at branching out a little bit for you, and we'll hopefully have more to show you over at Mission San Luis with our Messer House project. You'll hear more from John, and we're working on getting the IT done at Union Bank so we can have meetings there in the future as well. So I'll start with the budget. Governor DeSantis signed the 2026 state budget on June 30th, and while it was not as good as the last couple of years where we just had a bumper year with all sorts of construction projects and additional things to our base budget, we did fine. Our base budget was not really affected. Obviously, the special category grants, I'll actually let Angie do an update on those in a little bit. Sure. I didn't see that coming. You know, it was in the very last hours that they were removed. So, you know, we didn't have any indication that there would be any change this year, or we would have alerted you all too. But as you said, move forward in the future and see what we can do about those. The one sort of low spot in the budget is we did lose 2 full-time career service positions. So we went, while we have, you know, many OPS positions that are in our museums, we have had 82 full-time career service and SES employees. And so now we have 80. And so we had to choose the 2 positions that we were, you know, going to give up, basically. We were lucky that we had several that were still vacant. While we have gone from when I started this job, we had about 20-something vacancies. And we're down to about, you know, 5 or 6 now. And even working on those, we were able to use 2 vacant positions. And one was a museum educator that was stationed over at the Union Bank. So we're having other staff fill in there and sort of adjusting our hours at Union Bank. And then unfortunately, the other one was a senior archaeologist over at Bureau of Archaeological Research. So Katie's working on ways that we can fill those gaps. We're going to try to replace that with an OPS employee, which will actually give us a stair step, you know, another way to bring some people in that are maybe finishing up their master's thesis and move them into our other career service positions. So we did okay. We're not concerned, and we're thankful for what we have. We do continue to move forward with the artifact facility construction. We have the funds from previous fiscal years to construct the actual artifact facility, and we'll give you a tour of that maybe next time you're in town. But we did not receive the money for the conservation lab. So that's something that we're pursuing in the current. For next year's budget, we're already putting together a legislative budget request. We're looking at around $5.5 million to finish out that building. And so we're in the process of planning it right now, you know, doing the architectural drawings of what it would look like, but it would be built onto the back of that. So we're preparing that, you know, if we needed to build a building onto the back of it, you know, we can stop or we can continue construction. And then we're also looking at, obviously, the museum downstairs. We didn't receive any funding for the museum right now because, as you can tell, if you look out the window, they're still heavily involved in construction on the plaza. We're still looking at the end of 2026 for finishing this. There's still a lot to go. So I think, you know, maybe they just wanted us to get a little farther along in that before we started the planning process for the museum. So we're still working on that, and it would be about a $15 million request for the museum planning and construction. In the current budget, we did receive, or actually not us, the Division of Arts and Culture received $1 million for funding for America 250 grants. And so we had a short application cycle, and we're jointly managing that with Cultural Affairs. I'll let Angie get into more detail later, but I will tell you we got 400 applications. So the grants are between $10,000 and $100,000, and so thankfully Angie and John are going through those right now on a very tight timeline, and it's a lot of work.
Do the request exceed the amount?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's like 17
No,
million.
it's like 20.
Is it 20-something million?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it'll be, only the top ones really will get that funding. So more to come on that. And we did get great news that we were able to apply for our federal 2025 HPF grant funding. So Sarah has submitted that grant application for us. And on the 2026 HPF funding, it was not in the federal budget. So what we're looking at right now is, unless something's added, we're going to have to try to stretch that funding through to the next year. The good news is that we are not only funded by federal funding. We have a good portion that's funded by state. All of our positions are funded, through state funding. We're gonna have to tighten our belt, but it's not going to affect us to the point, like some other states only have the federal money for their programs, or for SHPO programs. So we'll work through that. And I'm on the agenda later to talk to you about America 250 and the statues, so I'll skip that for now. And let's see, we have our special category grants coming up. We're looking at doing a reception on the 22nd floor of the Capitol. John will talk about the exhibit we have there shortly. And then I know you'll be in town, hopefully you'll be in town for the November 6th meeting, and we are trying to plan some sort of joint event reception at that time. So mark your calendars to hopefully be in town for that date. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll let staff sort of go into more detail about our other programs. Okay. All right. Thanks, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. So next, what we need to do is to hear from the Bureau of Archaeological Research. Dr. Mion.
Good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I wanted to go over some of our milestones that we've been achieving. We did have bad news that we were losing a senior archaeology position. It is coming out of our underwater archaeology program, unfortunately, but that poses some complications, since there usually needs to be a specific number of people involved on certain projects for safety purposes. So I have such a wonderful bureau, and I work with such wonderful people. I'm just so lucky that we are all working together totally as a bureau to share the burden of that loss of position, and I think we found some creative ways to do that. And so we have an open senior art position in our public lands archaeology program. We're hoping it to make a little bit of a hybrid position with that, which would actually be useful for all the programs. And so that's going to be advertised soon, along with OPS positions for both public lands archaeology and for underwater archaeology is going to be advertised soon. So we're working with that. We also are preparing for hurricane season, as Erin is out there, and hurricane season usually means lots of effort on our part to make sure that we're working with the parks, make sure we're working with law enforcement, we're working with museums that house state artifacts to make sure that we support them when they need it. We also don't want to rush in too early when they're still cleaning up and dealing with rescue efforts. So we're always on call, and we reach out to them as soon as we can. We did have a record number, because we do our long-range performance plan, which records different milestones for different programs, and we had a record number of human remains cases this last year, over 128 cases that we had to respond to. And that also includes NAGPRA milestones and some other milestones as well, and also working with the cemeteries program to assist them with their inquiries and their issues. So, but it's a lot. but I have a great staff now. I have a full-time NAGPRA coordinator who has just been wonderful. We've already gotten out 2 notices of inventory completion. I've had, I think, over 10 or 11 government-to-government consultations since she started. So we're really moving forward with that. And also I have a wonderful osteologist. So we call ourselves the osteo strike force when we need to go out and respond to things, but it's fantastic. I also just recently got my AAUS scientific diving certification because a lot of these responses for human remains are actually underwater. And so not that I am an underwater archaeologist, I'm an underwater osteologist. So I let my team do their thing, but if there's human remains, then I'm involved. And sometimes there's reburials that the tribes call for that happen under
certification too. The sites are underwater. And
right.
You see them.
Right, exactly.
So I got certified. I went down and I saw them.
Yeah.
It's great.
And it helps you manage when you really understand the resources from a different level, and also what your employees have to do to do their job. So proud of myself and my older years to get my certification. I also wanted one of our senior archaeologists got promoted to an ARC3, Nick Yarbrough. He's the one who's been managing our 1A32 program. He's wonderful. And we also had a record number of 1A32 permits. We've had over 100 for this calendar year alone, which is pretty substantial, but all of them have been good. And to remind the board is 1A32 is our program regarding archaeological research permitting on state lands or state waters. And so we have to permit any archaeological activity that's happening on state lands or in state waters. And so Nick runs that program. For public lands archaeology, this last few months since we met is really heavy in Florida Forever acquisition travel. And under the new supervisor, Jason O'Donoghue, he's just been fantastic in mobilizing his staff to actually meet with the park rangers and also go out on these acquisition Florida Forever projects. What they are is it's the program to potentially acquire lands for conservation purposes by the state, but it also has a potential for acquiring lands that have significant cultural resources. And that's one of the things that they do is they go out there and they do basically a pedestrian survey or drive-by and just see any unrecorded sites that are there and mounds, and they record that in the Florida Master Site File, and also it adds potentially to the acquisition. So they did about 11 different field evaluations, which was pretty significant in the last few months.
Sorry, I don't know if you all know, I sit on the Acquisition and Restoration
Yeah,
Council.
she's the go.
They staff all of that.
Yeah.
All the work for me.
And also it's the year, there's 10-year management plans that all the land managers have to do. So basically, we work really closely with all the land managers throughout Florida on state lands to help them understand what their cultural resources they have that they're stewarding on their lands, and also how to manage them, and to review and see if there's any new ones that have been added to their plan, and they have to check on it. So, but there's 10-year plan cycles that get caught up every year, every certain number of years, every 10 years. And, and so, but sometimes they're more numerous than others, and this year was kind of a record number that they were dealing with. So they've been wonderful in all the efforts that they've been doing these last few months. Our underwater archaeology program's been amazing. I'll just highlight a few things that they've done, not everything. Right now, their field season is really ramped up. And even in between field season, they're managing to go out and do a lot of outreach, a lot of public outreach to not only to children, some children, and also, but going to things like the Lionfish Festival, where they promote awareness of our Florida Shipwreck Panhandle Trail. And this year, our Florida Shipwreck Panhandle Trail is getting highlighted because of the sinking of the USS that's happening soon, of which our staff is going to add that to the Panhandle Trail. I believe there's about, there's 20 unique ships along that trail. So that trail it's all throughout the Panhandle.
Yeah.
it's one of the few times people are encouraged to actually dive on archaeological sites, but what it does is it brings awareness to those sites and the importance of preservation and protection. And it was kind of spurred from the BP oil spill actually back in the day, and so our Bureau did this as an attempt to also bring back some tourism, some ecotourism and some cultural tourism back to the Panhandle after that spill, and it's been a great success story. And so it's kind of exciting now with the 250th to have the SSUS being sunk, which was the fastest liner, that was around, I think, from the 60s. So that's going to be a big event that happens this year.
How deep are they going to put the USS, the United States ship?
I think it was 50. Well, is it?
I do know.
Oh, thank you.
I know. Everything there is to know just from osmosis. From Wilkes County, where they're doing it all. Alex Fogg, who's the lead coordinator for the whole thing, it was his brainchild. I got to tour it 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good.
Right before they took the funnels off.
Yeah, they just took them off.
They just took them off.
Yeah, our staff went and they toured it before it.
Yeah. And it's an incredible project. So they're going to sink it at, I believe, 180.
Oh, 180. Okay.
That deep?
So you're never going to go to the.
Yeah,
you're never going to go. So 130 is your max at wreck diving.
Yeah.
So the goal is you have to take the funnels off, because if you sink it with the funnels on at 180, the funnels will be 20, 30 feet, and it becomes a navigation hazard. So they pull off the funnels, and so the main start of the superstructure is going to be very accessible at, like, I think around 60 foot. So recreational divers, the new ones, they'll get to access a good, interesting part of the ship that they can swim around, and it won't be so deep that you got to really worry about hurting people.
Yeah, that's like the one on Pensacola, it's 50 feet deep.
Right.
And that's not a that's not a easy dive.
Right.
60 is deep.
Right, and so your max is 130, but you only get like 5 minutes if you're breathing regular air. So my understanding is the keel or the sand will be at 180. The main superstructure is going to be mostly accessible around 90.
Okay.
And then, like, the bridge and some of the really top portions of the wreck, once you remove the funnels, will be quite accessible around 60.
Okay.
Yeah, and they learned a lot of lessons from what not to do when they sunk the Oriskany, which was the aircraft carrier off of Pensacola in 05. The problem was they sunk it, and then it settled, and the flight deck and all of that interesting parts of the ship is like 140 now, which you can't access.
Yeah.
So that's not the point.
People die at that level.
Yeah.
They stay too long, they come up too fast.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to encourage them to go down that deep.
Right.
And they will, accidentally almost.
Right.
Right. So they're going through the process now of closing off the big corridors that can give you access, because the ship's enormous. I toured it. You could spend 25 dives and only hit half of this stuff. Like, it's 990 foot long. I mean, it's an enormous ship.
It's big.
Yeah. It's going to be a heck of a thing.
Yeah. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
We're happy to be a part of it in some way.
Yep.
So our staff continued to do thank you so much for that. You had actually some more information than I did.
Front yard.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We toured it, and it was so hot. It was
I bet.
28. We had a girl pass out in the middle of the ship. We had to drag her to the edge, fan her off, and it was crazy. It's an experience.
Yeah, it's like an oven.
July, it was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I sit downtown Mobile.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So and our staff have been working back at Dog Island. They also have been doing quite a bit of work with McCullough Springs Park, just to kind of monitor the mastodon that's there that isn't actually originally from there, but it was put there in the 50s as a tourism thing. But it's a real mastodon skeleton. Yeah, there are actual mastodon skeletons in the McCullough, but the one that's kind of the famous one was put there, I think, back in the day. But they still have to help you do condition assessments and maintain it. But they actually, while they were down there, they recorded a previously unrecorded vessel that was probably from the early 1900s in that site. So now they're working with the park to interpret that. And yes, so they've been very, very busy. They've been in and out all over the place.
River?
It's in the. Let me see. Where did they find it? It's a historic flat bottom boat, wooden vessel, and it was found in the Spring Basin. So, yeah, so we're in the Spring Basin.
The water's still clear.
Yeah, exactly. And right now, this is the nicest place to dive is in springs because right now in the oceans, you have problems with some of the flesh-eating bacteria, and then also in the lakes, you have problems with the brain amoebas. So besides alligators and snakes. I was thinking how nice it must be to live up north where things don't try to kill you every time you go into a lake, right, or a river. And then for collections conservation, so as Alyssa was saying, so all of our facilities right now are currently under construction, literally every single one. So our conservation staff is displaced because they're fixing some of the water issues here. So neither the dry lab or the wet lab are accessible right now in the gray building, so they're working over at the Governor Martin House, so we're a full house over there right now. But they did get quite a bit of work done in preparation for this and moved canoes out into modular tanks and also moved any of the big objects that couldn't get conserved quickly. But they also rapid fire got out quite a few objects, and they're now on display. One of the steamboats that we had down there, which is originally from Ohio, is now in display over in Ohio where it was originated, but it sank in Florida. And a bunch of cannons have gone out that are on display all around the state. So that's great. But so the conservation lab is under construction. Our current collections facility is under construction for fire suppression. So they're installing a great fire suppression system in there, which is very needed and very good. So that's almost done. And then our new facility is well on its way. We're very excited for that to come about. And then we're also hoping for money for the conservation lab to be access to that. And I'll let John talk about all the efforts that our collection staff is doing for the 250 anniversary exhibit. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, historic preservation.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruben, Bureau Chief. So quick update for the Bureau. So one of the good things is that I had a all-staff Bureau meeting in this room earlier this week, and we filled up the place, which is awesome. I look back, and currently it looks like I only have 2 vacancies in my Bureau, which is awesome. One of which is OPS, the other one's Career Service, both in the grants section. We had the 3rd vacancy in the Main Street, and that was filled this week. So they're fully staffed up to 3, and the vacancies existing grants is because we did lose a grants manager in the late spring at Theo Smith. But then that gave us the opportunity to promote from within and create some opportunities. And so far, my grants staff have been doing an excellent job. At our conference earlier this year, the Preservation on Main Street, all I heard was good things about all of my grants staff. So I'm really happy with that. But to go through a little bit more organized, so National Register Program, survey and registration, they're incredibly busy right now because it's a survey season. All of our survey grant projects are supposed to have been finished at the end of June, but we often give them a little bit of extra time to finish writing their reports and stuff. So we're working on reviewing and providing comments on those and trying to make sure that the grant products are the best that we can do. And collecting the raw data that we need for historic preservation. They had their National Register Review Board meeting here yesterday, as several of you know, where we reviewed 2 really interesting projects down in the Miami area. There was a historic district associated with Pan American Airways, the Pan Am Historic District, which included their Latin American Division headquarters and their former flight school, which is really neat, along with some hangars and other maintenance support facilities that speak to the jet age of that airline, which is something that actually there's not a lot of preserved properties across the country associated with that era of airline travel. Their seaplane era is actually pretty well preserved and documented. So that was really cool. And then we also did a really interesting religious property where we nominated the Masjid Al-Ansar, which is the Mother Mosque for South Florida, and a very interesting history associated with Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and it was very neat. Also an example of adaptive reuse where group of people come in and they use, it was a former church building built in the 1930s that was then repurposed into a mosque, which is really interesting seeing how one tradition converts the building construction for another tradition. In fact, it reminded me of replicating a pattern that was most common in the medieval period, like in Spain or in the Middle East, right? Where the transitions of cultures and stuff was very fascinating seeing it in the modern example. We also got updates on the nominations that we did back in May for the Lamolithic Historic District down in Sarasota and the Port Theater update. Both of those are with National Park Service. They're working through their review processes, and we fully expect those to be listed in the National Register within the next several weeks. Working along with them, our tax credit program's going really strong right now. It's probably some of the busiest that they've been. A lot of work coming out of Jacksonville right now. People submitting Part 1 applications to see if their properties qualify for the tax credit program, and then Part 2s, which propose the work for the tax credit program. And we've also been getting several Part 3s, which means people are actually finishing their project, which is awesome. Jack Williams has been a great help. Everybody is always so happy that we have an architect on staff again. He went to Washington, D.C. and received training from the National Park Service in June, and he's been helping with both the tax credits and the grant projects. A lot of our development-focused grant projects are going through Jack, and he's reviewing not just the plans, but things like contracts and procurement and all that stuff. His experience has actually been invaluable in that aspect in providing guidance to grantees and such, and how to obtain professional services or reviewing contracts to make sure that grantees are getting what they need to make sure that our projects are successful.
1 minute, Ruben.
Yes.
Rick seems to have a question.
Oh, okay.
Just a comment. It's been a pleasure working with Jack, and it's so great to have an architect on board after so many years without one. So take good care of him, please. Make sure he stays happy.
We're trying.
Will do. I'll try to limit things like on Monday when he and I drove down to Okahumpka to visit a project, and it was a day trip. So 3.5 hours out, 2 hours on site, 3.5 hours back. Totally worth it.
And you drove?
Yes.
Good. Take very good care of him.
But yeah.
Give him lots of water and snacks. He's not allowed to retire.
I would echo that, because already we've used him, relied on him heavily to try and solve one of the problems we're having that's associated with a grant that we have from you all. And it's just a difficult site to begin with. So he's been very, very helpful trying to just problem solve with us.
Yeah. So that's always really good. Our Main Street program has been incredibly busy. We also had a staff person leave in the late spring associated with our Main Street program, but that allowed us to, again, promote internally to use the resources that we've developed here in the office, which has been a priority for us. So Garrett Walsh is our new Main Street planner, helping out Catherine Beck. And they pulled off another successful conference in Fernandina Beach. That was very well attended. We had over 250 attendees over the 3 full days of training, and then there was a half day on Friday. 3.5 days of training and professional development. We did a lot of sessions that dealt with managing projects and design, a whole bunch of stuff. It was really fun and engaging conference, and I'm looking forward to the next one, which is going to be in Cocoa Village. So that's going to be fun and exciting. Lots of really interesting partnership opportunities down there in Cocoa and Brevard County. So as we move further down the planning process, we've already started work on it. We'll be sharing more information. We expect that the call for speakers is actually going to be coming out a little bit earlier this year, just to make sure that we have enough time to go through all of our review processes. So don't be surprised if you get an email from us in September. That's when we're looking to do the call for speakers for that following July. And then they are, on top of planning really good conferences, they are maintaining their training schedules and everything. We have a quarterly meeting coming up in Plant City and such, and that's going to be exciting because we're also trying to, again, help our programs work together more. And so Tyler Smith, our CLG coordinator, is going to be participating in that training to help integrate CLG and Main Street a little bit better. And speaking of CLG, we actually, since Tyler has been trained up in his position now, we're starting some of the more intensive work within the Certified Local Government Program. We're going to be doing a regional training in Bartow down in Polk County in October, where we're working with the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions to do one of their camp trainings in Bartow for all of our southern CLGs. And then hopefully in 2 years, we'll be back to our regional training schedule like we had before our pandemic, where we had like little regional meetings across the state, providing really high quality in-depth training to our local government partners. And then he'll also, on top of planning that, he's running his bi-monthly CLG webinar training, and we're going to soon start looking at doing evaluation, which is another big part of that program. Lastly, just a few little things. Since the last time we met, we also had a big outreach event in May here, well, not here in this building, but over at Mission San Luis. Our compliance section successfully planned and conducted our CRM summit, where we brought together all of the private sector cultural resource management firms, and we did a day and a half of informational sessions and Q&As and roundtables and stuff, talking about, archaeological projects and methodologies, survey, all that stuff. And that was very well attended, very lively discussion. That was great. I loved it. The only other thing, Hope Evans introduced herself earlier. She's our newest member of the survey and registration section. You've been here a month and a half, 2 months? 2 months, yes. 2 months. Yes. Yep. So we're happy to continue, essentially growing and serving the public and preserving our historical resources across the state. So, Bureau's been busy. It hasn't burned down to the ground yet. So I count that as a win.
You got a good fire system, I hear.
Yep.
I used to have a fireman helmet. I kept it in my closet in my office. So just when fires erupted, and I put the helmet on, and everyone actually laughed. And then I used it, and then we got to actually putting out the fire. And it was helpful. Yeah. Thanks, Ruben.
Yep.
Thank you a lot. John, you want to tell us about outreach and construction? Lord, this is going to be a long one.
Yeah, come on. Buckle up.
Yeah, right.
Jeremy, so I realized that I hadn't been to these meetings for a while, and that's because my actual legitimate excuse was I was at the Grove leading public programming. So in the present time, Alyssa mentioned we have some vacancies. One of them is the Grove director. So when we have adult-focused programming, obviously, because of my experience with the Grove, I will lead that programming, and that could be anything from, like on Emancipation Day, May 20th, we do emancipation tours, so I talk about our research into slavery and the enslaved population of the Grove, and kind of after the end of slavery, Preservation Month, we'll talk about our really large project on the Call Collins House and everything we did there, and so on and so forth. But those things happen throughout the year, so I hope everybody follows us on Facebook, and you can be sure to come and listen to one of that if you want additional length of me talking. Now, I haven't been here for a while, so I want to remind you it snows.
All right, that's fine.
Yes, it's snowpocalypse, and we had some really great photos, for the Grove, and the snows particularly Yeah, particularly relevant since it's now the opposite of snow. Yeah, we're at the opposite of snow time. Yeah, and Jerry, you can go to the next one. I'm not going to hit on everything because we'd be here forever, but this is the Brokaw-McDougall House. Some of you probably haven't seen these photos yet. I know Alyssa has, and Alyssa's been there with me. So we discovered in the Brokaw-McDougall House that we had a layer of asbestos-containing material that was used as a leveling coat in the plaster system during a repair that occurred in the past. So the building is 1856. It is post and beam construction. It has really massive, yes, and so this is down to the lab. Yeah. This is the original lab. We had to go from the finished layers all the way back down to the lab to get rid of that asbestos-containing layer. And the other scope of this work on the bottom left, you can see the two fireplace surrounds. We had to take all of the interior woodwork off the wall to get the asbestos behind some of it, and then also get all the way down to the base of the wall cavities. That is to say, we vacuumed out of the wall cavities any residual asbestos that either was present there or had fallen into those spaces during the abatement process. So this all goes through EPA clearance. We have an environmental engineer that is on site throughout the entire project to monitor the conditions within the asbestos containment areas, and then also do post-abatement sampling in those areas of the air, and then also to look at the material they're taking off the walls. So we're into about $2.6 million for the abatement. We've got the pricing on the restoration phase, where we're going to put back a wall system with some breathable paint. So we'll discourage the amount of moisture that can accumulate in these open spaces. We learned, too, that to create the negative air pressure in the containment areas, we had to actually close off the crawl space because it was drawing air up the wall cavities into the second floor when they were turning on the machines. So we learned a lot about the framing of the house. We're going to have to correct some undersized framing around the staircases and sundry other issues revealed when you get to take all the plaster off the walls, including some inactive termite damage. I mean, these are big pieces of timber that are used in this, huge, massive pieces of old growth material, but we're still talking about some good bit of termite damage in certain areas of the house. This is allowing us also to rewire. We still had some cloth insulated wire in different circuits, especially light switches and then some receptacles and then some lights in different areas of the house. So this is the restoration package, I think, is around $2 million. So we're into approximately $5 million for the Brokaw, and all of that was as a result of legislative appropriations Alyssa mentioned in kind of the bumper year where we received all that. So this is going to finish up in the spring next year. And so then beyond that time, because we're rewiring it, we're also going to drop network connections in places where you could have a meeting such as the one we're in today at a beautiful house. So those are the types of things that we're going to hand over in terms of like the user element of this. We'll reestablish the bottom floor for events and meetings and things like that, and it'll serve that purpose, which of course, if you're familiar with Tallahassee, you know that it did for many years, from the 70s until really the 2012 when we reoccupied the building. So this is one of our main undertakings. We're also doing, I didn't have pictures, but we're doing a similar project at the Messer House. So that's really
Well, can I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, please.
So just to be clear, so this started out as the lead project, the lead paint project, and this was the first place we found the lead paint, and then it was the gift that kept on giving asbestos also.
Yeah.
But I was really adamant about keeping this and keeping the original technique because this is one of the most original houses that we have. And so I was really excited to see that they were able to keep that much of the lap. And I think
I've never seen that much.
And so they're going to go back with original plaster. Original people there's not a lot of people that do that kind of work anymore. And I hear they're really excited because this is one of the few projects they get to do that's like a full house, you know, usually they're probably doing more repair work. So I hope to get people and have lots of photos of them actually like reinstalling the plaster. It's going to be a neat process.
That's great.
Yeah.
It would be a great teaching opportunity too, because kids in preservation, and I mean, if you can just document it, because nobody has seen that kind of work.
Right. Parker, you want to say something?
I was just, from a restoration standpoint, you know, if you have a load-bearing beam, it's old growth, you can't really swap it out. You just put plates and then go from two healthy sections and...
In some instances, yeah, we're doing that. We're also like on the staircase, we did this at Call Collins because we exposed it so much, we could strap it in to the wall. So kind of like conventional, like you might strap down a roof in a hurricane situation. And then, but we're also, because we can get into the wall cavities, we're adding like additional posts and spanning from one to the other. Most of it is underpinning the material that's there. And so then when we get down into the crawl space of this house is enormous. So you have the opportunity to carry some of those loads back to the main kind of king framing of the house that are sitting on top of the piers. It sits on top of masonry piers. So we're able to kind of connect down in that way. But in one of the things that was interesting about this is you could see where there were a lot of repairs made over time. And the moisture accumulation in the house had caused delamination, where a lot of the repairs had started to separate from, they weren't well bonded. We found one where like a conventional screening, like you might have on your back porch, was used as a kind of type of lathe to try to adhere one of the repairs. And so in others, there was almost like a chicken wire used. So you could see that they were trying different things out, and as moisture gets between those layers and they start to fall off. So we had sections of the ceiling just kind of fall down, for example, and things like that. And so it's rare, I think, kind of to Alyssa's point, that we can go back and do this much specialized work to repair it. And the subcontractor bidding on this was extremely attractive. We got a lot of competitive bidding, and honestly, I think we got a really good price for like the painting and things like that. Like we were expecting it to be more expensive than it actually turned out to be. And I mentioned the last thing here, the ADA improvements. Under one of our ARPA projects, we completed an ADA renovation of the first floor bathroom, and then also this house. We had a older wheelchair lift, and so we're able to also replace that with a modern lift, and then from the point at which you get on the lift and go up into the house, the sidewalks that connect to that, and then the way the parking lot no longer meet the Florida Accessibility Code. So we're able to then kind of excavate out a portion of the parking lot and raise up the elevations and fix some of the sidewalks and there's a space where we might have to add a railing, for example, because we're now exceeding that slope. So without those ARPA funds and the legislative funding, something like this could not be undertaken with our operating budget. We have $500K a year, right, to do work. And so if you add the ADA and then you add this, we're right around that $5 million figure. So it's been a pretty intense effort on this one.
So the whole house have a left exposed like this?
100%. Yeah, and all the wood, they took everything off and numbered it, and it all came off clear. Clean. You know, we didn't have to go back and get a lot of stuff milled because but you get to see how they've made the base and some of the trim. Typically there's multiple pieces. Some of the pieces are thinner and smaller than you thought that they would piece them together that way. Yeah. But there's a lot of interesting little things. We can see where they built the closets. And of course in the antebellum period, they wouldn't have had closets. You can see the way they spliced into some of the original framing to build bathrooms and what some of the consequences of those things are as you get a chance to look at it again.
You were excavating the house.
That's right, 100%. So that's really cool. And but that money that we got for the lead paint, we also did quite a bit of work at the Messer House, which we'll be able to see much sooner. And we're in the process of doing a bunch of the finishing the bathroom work. Katie mentioned the HVAC system. We've actually replaced the HVAC system at the collections building, and then are also installing a fire suppression system. That's in the existing building. And so that's going really well. And we we've already talked about, we re-roofed the council house at San Luis with the synthetic thatching. That's one of these projects. And we did a little work on the roof here at Brokaw. We replaced just the cupola section with a composite slate shingle that's similar. Actually, it's not slate, it's composite shake. So it's the same product that we have on the Call Collins, but that's a slate. And then on the old Capitol John, they did the composite slate roof on that too. So this is a much more durable material, easier to install in terms of the comparison to natural slate and weight, and a lot of other things they can do to help the roof system.
And the look of that has greatly improved in just the last 10 years. It doesn't look so plastic, and looks more realistic, and it's up high. So
long run, we'd probably go for the whole roof. When we do these, re-roof these, we're probably going to, in almost all instances, go to some kind of some kind of composite material that gets us an architectural look that we're going for, but that has a lot more value to us because we're not going to have money to replace them. We don't want to be the people touching them again. So the construction's going, we're at like full speed. We're currently building the south and west walls of the conservation building at San Luis and the elevator pit. And so they've, got to the point where they're beginning to move the northward part and install some of the drainage structures and some of the things like that. So yes, it's actually happening. And the contractor was really proactive in getting some of the long lead items ordered before some of the tariffs kicked in. We took delivery of the steel before any of that was affected, so there's steel stacked up out there at San Luis. It does close the entrance to the site off of Tennessee Street temporarily, but we're using what would be really the original public entrance. And that, creates some complications and confusions, but we're on track to finish this in the period between July and September of 2026, which is ahead of the ARPA funding deadline. And Alyssa and Katie both mentioned the conservation facility. While we got the funding to do the design and we're moving forward to the construction document stage on that, and we're going to go ahead and try to get the building permitted. We don't have the money that we need to finish its construction. We do have the money to get it 100% designed, and we're going to go ahead and try to get it permitted because we did run into some delays with the city with some of the permitting questions. So we're going to go ahead and be ready to build it, when the money comes through, and we're estimating that we need about $5.5 million additional dollars for that. You can go for it, Jeremy. But construction's just part of the fun, right? We got a lot of other stuff. I did bring a few kind of examples of other projects that we do, and these kinds of things lend support to why the Museum of Florida History is really an important part of our program. The governor's office and DMS wanted us to make new replica giclée portraits of the Florida governors, and so we turned this project around in a matter of weeks. We obtained some custom frame stock that everybody liked. We shot the original governor's portraits on a fancy camera that the archives has. We got the prints made and we framed them before anybody knew what was happening. But this is the kind of work that we can do in-house and that we're able to do in a very rapid amount of time through the museum. So we're really happy to have really talented museum artisans that can perform this work. We also have been in the process, and Alyssa's going to talk more about this. We were asked to obtain statues of some of the founding fathers. This is, of course, Thomas Jefferson. He is seated now, presently, on the front porch of the Jefferson County Courthouse in Monticello. So we were able to procure this statue and get it installed in order to meet a pretty quick turnaround. We put it on the porch, I think, on July 2nd, ahead of a July 3rd press conference by the governor, and so we were able to do that. And we have some more on the way, but I think Alyssa's going to talk about that. We did, just in case you're wondering, this weighs 1,000 pounds. I know that because we put it on a hand truck that has a scale, and we built We used some 2x6s to create the manual way of taking it off the dolly and putting into place. I had the pleasure, I suppose, of actually drilling into it to bolt it down to the deck of this. So I don't just get to watch construction, I get to do construction. So he's over there in Monticello. You can go to the next one, Jeremy. Trying to remember what else I put. Oh, and
that's where he'll stay.
yeah, the thinking is he will stay there. We wanted to make sure he was attached, and so did they. They were really a pleasure to work with over in Jefferson County. Now, we are going to talk a little bit more later in the agenda about the big exhibit that we're going to do, and Parker and I have been talking a lot about what's going on in West Florida, and Judy, I'm sure you're familiar with that, and so we're hoping to make sure that the state of Florida, through Department of State, contributes something here in Tallahassee. It's going to be on the 22nd floor. In the interim time, we put up an art show that's from the Reisner Fine Art Collection. Many of these works span from the 19th century, thinking back to like the Hudson River School, through the Highwaymen to more modern artists, even like Guy Harvey. We have a piece of Guy Harvey artwork in here, for example. And most of them are landscapes. You know, when we pick some different scenes that evoke some of the themes in Florida history that span that 250 years. So we have works that show Payne's Prairie or cattle or a chickee in the Everglades or a dugout canoe or a scene of people fishing on Jensen Beach, which looked very familiar to me, kind of the part of the state I grew up in.
Did you do any by Chris Still?
Yes, we did. We did a Chris Still scene from, I think, a Springs scene. In particular, I think we picked one of his that was a spring. So we wanted to kind of hit all these things that underscore the idea that the landscapes that are memorable in Florida, many of which are historic themselves, these are things that help us, tie into the US 250, right? These are places, historic places that people from the Revolutionary period might find familiar, right? And some of us, of course, know that some of these places still exist today, and many of them are memorialized in these types of works. So that's kind of the genesis of that exhibit. I'll talk more about the other exhibit, and I think I got one more thing just to remind everybody about things that are happening. Alyssa mentioned we're going to do a closing reception for that exhibit on the 24th. You'll know that that is the day one of your special category grants meetings. And so you will finish that meeting promptly at 5 o'clock, so you can go up and watch look at the art and get a nice reception on the 22nd floor, which is a tremendous space to do museum exhibits because you can see from 22 stories high all of the landscape of Tallahassee. Of course, you have your panel meeting on the days that I think I put the wrong days.
Yes, it's the 24th.
Yeah. Whoops.
Don't take a picture of that.
Don't. Well, take a picture of everything but that.
24th.
Following
special category.
So following that exhibit coming down of the art show, we're going to have a photography exhibit that's with the State Archives, and the Museum of Florida History is going to do the fabrication. Coming up later, Blessing of Animals is an annual event in San Luis. Winter Open House is at the Grove every first Saturday in December. So you all would love to have you here if you can be here. And then the big exhibit that we're working on, I'll talk about more later, will go up in January and run through the time at which DMS wants to take the windows out on the other part of the 22nd floor so they can use that for their swing stage to work their way. They're replacing all the windows in the tower.
Oh, right.
If you look from this side,
you can see it from here, right?
yeah, so they are going to go on to the east side, which is the side the gallery's on, and to access that, they have to go through the bank of windows, so they'll be taking those out. So we got a lot of stuff going on in our, and this is just a small amount of things. These of course, are not all the things.
Is the 22nd floor open today?
Yes, it is. And you can go up and get on a special elevator, and it takes you right up there, and you can go see the exhibit today. It's up there today and open to the public during the week. And I think, Dr. Benz, I'm on the hook for the next item too, which I could transition to if you'd like. And this one would be very brief.
I think
I was going to ask you about the Giclée process.
Yes.
Do you require authorization from the original artist before you can make those?
That's a great question. In some cases, the loan paperwork permitted us to make a copy, and in other cases, we chose not to reproduce them because of a restriction that the artist had. A lot of the other works are in the public domain, depending on their age, but there are ones to which we did not reproduce because of that restriction. But we found a local printer that does the process and really does a tremendous job of doing it. And I think it's gotten a lot more accessible in recent years. And it used to be, I think, a lot more complicated of a printing process. But the person that we hire does really big orders for like Costco, right? Like if you go into, if you go into like an Airbnb, probably anywhere in the world, you'll see like a generic picture of some kind of beach thing. He's the one who makes stuff, his contract, but he does the smaller stuff for us, and he will put it on a stretcher frame that we specify, because we typically build the frames ourselves because our fabrication finish carpenters are so good that we want to build the custom frames. We just don't have the equipment to do the printing or the stretching and wrapping of the canvas. And so, but we've gotten really lucky that we found a vendor that's really interested in doing this kind of specialty small order stuff for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, good.
Okay. Quick.
Support.
So one of my other areas of responsibility is to help Alyssa with the citizen support organization, Friends of Florida History.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and so we recently undertook a year process to merge two entities that were under the Department of State. In historical resources, we had what was still known as Friends of Florida History. The Museum of Florida History, CSO, was the Friends of the Museums of Florida History. And that organization in and of itself was a organization that had absorbed many CSOs over the years, including John, what was the Friends of the Old Capitol Museum many, many years ago. So for the purposes of efficiency, and because the museum a couple of years ago came back under DHR administratively and budgetarily, combining all these into one organization allows us to do a lot of things that will save us time and money in the future. We'll have one set of meetings, one board, one set of filings, one set of auditing. We're subject to mandatory auditing because of the value of the accounts. And that organization receives, for example, the revenue that we generate at the mission from rentals or memberships or other types of donations that come into the museum. We then manage the expenditure of those funds. There are pretty substantial endowments that exist for Mission San Luis, for the Knott House, and the Museum of Florida History. And we have, investment advisors who manage those funds. And so over the next couple of years, we'll be kind of trimming off a lot of the things that are either duplicative or that can be made more efficient under the CSOs. And we had the opportunity to hire a new CSO development director that reports to me that is working on that. So that's a good update, a good vehicle for us to, fund things like the reception that we have, or, when we get you all donuts before your meeting. That's where those things come from. Oh, I mean, a theoretical donut, Kathleen, not an actual donut.
Your lunch at the special category meeting is funded, and your refreshments are funded by the CSO. And so also, any money we take in from sponsorships for the Preservation on Main Street Conference, we're able to funnel that through there. And then the CRM Summit that we talked about, we were able to take, we charged, I think, like $50 fee for people to come, and we're able to have refreshments and things that we wouldn't normally be able to pay for out of state funds.
So it's one CSO now?
Mm-hmm. One.
Yes. What is it called?
It's still Friends of Florida History, and of course, Don Slesnick is the chair.
Yeah. So basically, the Friends of Florida History subsumed the Friends of the Museum. So the board that was on one, they all just sort of came under the same umbrella. And obviously the name made more sense, Friends of Florida History being the mother organization. So we're excited. I think it's going to save us a lot. That's just the auditing costs on the specific types of audits that we have to do. It's very duplicative. So
save some money out.
Yeah, and we have a great new person running it, Melissa Brock, who just incredible.
Good.
Great hire.
Gives you more flexibility too.
Yes.
Like that.
This may be a sensitive matter, but has anyone given further thought to subsuming the Historic Capitol Museum under the Department of State? It once was, as I recall.
Right.
But not thinking about that at this point.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I do have an inside source there.
I do.
And I don't believe that's currently contemplated by its governing authority.
Understand.
Yeah. And that's what I have, unless there are any questions.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
You're a good man. Do you want to take a little break before we get to the grant? Sure. Let's take 10 minutes. Okay. It's 10:42. Let's come back at 10:55. 10 minutes. Oh, your leg.
Ready?
I got it. Yeah, we got it.
Floor is yours, Angie.
Okay. I am going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, grants, which is usually a happier discussion, but we kind of already all know the situation, but I'll just refresh everyone. So I'll talk about some small matching and others before special category. So we did get our 1.5. We do have for small matching grants, we have in our base budget 1.5 million recurring, and that is what we ended up getting. We didn't get it the extra, which we usually do request as a budget LDR in the grant book. But that 1.5 million will fund 36 projects in small matching. The actual list, I think, was closer to 60, around 60. We had requested an additional 900,000 and change over the 1.5. The legislature also included 4 member projects in small matching for 1.4 million. So in total, we've got like about 3 million, a little under 3 million for small matching, including those member projects. We also, as Alyssa mentioned, we did get the go-ahead from the National Park Service to go ahead and apply for our federal funding for federal fiscal 25. So that grant, once we get the money, that will be available for our CLG sub-grants. So those will be funded as well. Those projects are run through the small matching grant program. That's how they apply. But then we usually take the top 3 or 4 ranked CLG projects, projects from the certified local government for federal, usually it's in National Register, survey, and planning for historic eligible properties eligible for National Register. So we will fund those as well. So we'll have a little bit extra money from the federal side for small matching projects as well. We also did get $500,000 in the budget for our abandoned African American cemeteries grants. That's a new program. That's the third. We ran 3 application cycles for that program last year because it was a newly funded program, and the legislature just gave us $1 million in fiscal 24 and fiscal 25. So we went ahead and ran those as separate cycles last year outside of our normal grant cycles, and then we're now on a schedule where those get applied for and reviewed at the same time as our small matching and special category in April and June. And then but last year we put forward a request for $500,000, and that's going to fund that full list because we only had 9 projects to apply for after the 3rd cycle, right? But those projects are going well, and that's a really great program that we haven't talked a lot about here, so we'll try to give you more updates about that historic cemetery program in the future. It's really up and going now. It's fully staffed, and they're doing a lot of work right now outside of the grant, reviewing to find abandoned cemeteries that aren't recorded and get them recorded in the master site file. So that's just an ongoing project of the cemetery program, and also just responding to any inquiries we get about, we found a cemetery, what do we do? Or this cemetery is endangered, how do we help? So we're like that program acts as sort of a clearinghouse for people who call questions and to tell them, okay, go talk to your local government, we'll put you together with them, or talk to FPAN and they can maybe come out and help you. And we do site visits and things like that. So, but those grants are moving forward as well in this fiscal year for the abandoned African American cemeteries. And then special category, we kind of already talked about it earlier, but no funding for the ranked list was included. And as Alyssa mentioned, that was sort of a very end of the legislative cycle surprise for us. Because there had been some funding from one of the houses, I think it was the Senate, and we thought we were going to get a little bit of funding, but it didn't happen. There were included, though, as well, member projects under that category.
Angie,
Sure.
You got funded by the legislature.
No.
You didn't get funded at all by the legislature?
The list didn't get funded.
The list didn't.
Other projects got funded.
The ranked
They
list.
picked and choose. Okay.
Yeah, there was some funding from the legislature during the budget conferences, and I think it was the Senate that the House didn't have funding, or I could have it reversed, but one had no funding and one had some funding, but not for the full list, but at least some funding. And then at the end, they took out the funding for the ranked list that you all reviewed completely. They did leave in that line, which is fixed capital outlay projects. The legislature put 11 projects in, the governor vetoed 4. So we have 7 member projects in that category. If you look at the budget, you'll see some funding there, but it's not from the list that was reviewed and ranked by the Historical Commission. And that is, so there's after vetoes, there's $2.5 million for 7 projects in the special category line in the budget.
Sorry, any of those 7 projects were things we reviewed completely separate from what we reviewed?
No, there is actually one.
The Florida Theater was
that have them written.
That's
so the ones that are, no, you didn't review these. Clay County Archives, Truman Little White House, they do apply to you all, but this project is not one they applied for. It's a different project. The Florida Theater, Historic Pigeon Key, Hurricane Hardening.
So somebody just,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, they get a
The old-fashioned way they did it.
Yeah, they asked our legislator to put in a funding request that's outside of the grant.
You're making my eyes bleed. You said 2.5 million?
Yeah, total after vetoes. There is one for Goodwood that made it in, and you did review Goodwood, but my understanding, and we're going to work with them on it, was that these were things that weren't included in their application budget. So we'll work with them, and maybe they'll be able to do some of the work that they applied for, but I'm not sure where that is right now, because we do have, with these types of projects, because we haven't seen, in any given year, when we have member projects, because we don't see those as applications, then once we know they're funded, grant staff reaches out to them and says, congratulations, you were funded, so let's work on what your scope of work and budget are. So they're working with them now to nail those things down.
And the list was in, I see you guys that email about the budget back on it's July 2nd. I only know because I have it printed out here, so if you can't find it, let me know. But the list was in there with the vetoes crossed out.
Yeah. And we can resend, but that was previously sent. So that's sort of just the overview of what's in the budget. You know, staff is working on the small matching ones to get them out, and the member projects, and I will update you on applications next. But it's a busy time for grants because they're closing out the projects from last year, they're starting new projects, and they're doing the application reviews for the cycle that closed in June. So just to give you an update on that, the cycle closed June 2nd, and for small matching, we received 37 applications requesting $1.6 million. For abandoned cemeteries grants, we received 10 applications for requesting just under $500,000. And for special category, which is what you will be reviewing, we received 67 applications requesting $27 million. Last year, we received 64 applications. So it's sort of on par with what we received previously the last 2 years.
But the amount has gone up to $1 million, so that's
correct.
The ask is a little higher.
Go ahead. You have questions?
Well, I just have an observation. So the session ended or the budget came out so late this year that normally when we know our list doesn't get funded, some of those projects are able to jump back into the grant application period, but our grant application period had already closed.
We do.
So some of these emergency projects that really need to happen, now they're looking at a 2-year.
Correct. Some probably did reapply for you. We can figure that out. Only Eric's here. He said only one reapplied from last year during the cycle because historically the last few years we have gotten funding. So
you're in a different cycle this year because the legislature starts in January. So I hope we won't be faced with this kind of crisis up to the last minute. that option. We didn't know what was going on. It was strange. I wonder if going to the $1 million level made a difference in terms of the legislature's thinking. Do we have any idea?
I mean, the full amount of the list wasn't that much
No,
higher.
it wasn't really
The number of
significantly
applications
different.
down.
And I did look at that, and I think, gosh, did I not make a note of it? I did look at the current list of applications to see how many were above the 500,000, and it was only like 12.
Yeah, there weren't that many.
So even this year in the application cycle, people are still requesting, they're not all requesting $1 million.
Yeah, and our ranking, you know, it was all over the place
Yeah,
as far
yeah.
as where those $1 million
Yeah, they weren't
requests.
all at the top. But yeah, so 67 applications for 27 million. Last year it was 64, and I think the total request was something like 24 million before you ranked it, and then some fell out. I think the funding request last year might have been around 17.
I think it's like 17.
Yeah, the final actual funding request.
Sorry, this new cycle is 67 applications?
Right.
For 27
million.
27 million.
We're getting close. I've already looked at some of the draft staff reviews, so we're getting close to having those finalized to be released to you a month ahead of time from the meeting, which I will remind you is September 24th and 25th, not what was on the slide you saw earlier. That's a Wednesday and Thursday, and we're doing the reception on the 24th at the Capitol, I think. I don't know that we've reached out yet to the Florida Trust, but we're still trying to see if we can do that.
They actually are interested in
Okay.
co-hosting that reception.
Oh, okay,
We're working
so
with them
that
on
would be the reception.
how that would be divided.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But you'll get some once we send out the applications for you to review, as usual, we'll do a little refresher on how to score, but nothing's really changed. The main thing that changed, because we did a lot of changes last year, we increased the amount to 1 million, we decreased the match request requirement to 50% since we had increased the amount. We did include in the rule revision this year, at your recommendation and request, that they have to submit 3 letters of support or they'll be ineligible. So they still have time to get those in if they come in, outside of the actual application. But when we get to the point of releasing them to you, we will look at if any don't have 3 letters of support, and you won't see those because you requested that. So, but we're working with them to make sure, we're trying to remind them, get them in, but we will.
Would it be worth looking at a rules, given the way or the problem we faced with vetoes or failure to appropriate based on our ranking list in the past. And it's been a little choppy in the last couple of years for this reason, for different reasons, but I wonder if it would be worth considering that we could, on our own initiative, advance an application from a prior year that was not funded. Because there's a lot of work, because some of these are very worthwhile applications that probably didn't submit this year thinking they would be funded from the current budget, but they're not. I don't know how complicated that would be, or whether it would be a legal issue or a regulation issue. But it seems to me to be worth, if we could, within our power, advance something like that from one year to the next.
I don't know about individual applications and how we would sort of pick those out. I can't speak to, I'm not sure if you were on the commission. I know Ellen Uguccione was on the commission when this happened. And it was back in the 2009, 2010 era. And we did have a couple years where we did have very, very bad funding cycles. And we rolled over applications. I believe we rolled them over twice. And staff would have to go back and recheck with all the applicants, which became really complicated. And I just remember, I think it was Ellen who made the motion to never, ever, ever roll over a list
I feel like
of applications
so
again. Yeah.
After 2 times.
Yeah, she said never, ever roll over. And so, and that was voted on. So I don't know about individual ones, but I know the past commission didn't want.
I could see not doing the whole batch.
Yeah.
But I could also see the merit to selectively doing it with the with the commission's approval, but it's just a way of somehow avoiding this kind of confusion.
Politics got us this year.
Yeah. Well, I will say.
Oh, sure, but I'm just saying, in our own case, if we saw something, maybe the top 5, by using some standard, some reasonable standard, the top 5 could, upon the commission's approval, advance those applications into the next year. But I realize it is complicated. We had the same problem, ironically, in the legislature, because back in the 70s, someone had the brilliant idea of saying all bills filed in the first of a 2-year session would automatically carry over into the next year of the second year of the session.
But that clogged things up.
And boy, did it clog things up. I mean, it was
right there.
It was terrible. We had to redo all the staff analyses and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So we gave up that idea. So I'm not sure this would be any better, but it seems to me a waste of a great deal of time and effort.
It is.
To just let these things slide. I mean,
is it possible that once you've applied, unless things have drastically changed, and as long as Kathleen's issue, where she said, listen, we missed the date, they unprecedentedly kind of just kicked the can clock for an extra 60 days, so they missed the window to reapply. So assuming that doesn't happen again, could you, in theory, as long as you've got the ability and window, relatively easily reapply, because you're not reinventing the wheel, because you already got one sitting there in the hospital.
That's what I was just going to say, because this happened when we didn't receive funding, in my recollection, when we didn't receive funding in 21 and 22 during the pandemic years, we encourage people just reapply. And if you get funded and you've got an application in the hopper, then we'll just reach out to you and say, oh, you've been funded, so you can withdraw this application or something. Like that is very easily done, and we do it regularly. I think the issue is this year the budget was just signed so late, and that happened so late. It was the timing. Because anyone could have reapplied this year just to cover their bases, and some of them do. And, next year we'll tell them again. We do say you can reapply when people ask, but we'll encourage them to reapply just to make sure. But again, session's in January, so they should know potentially by the time the application cycle opens what the funding looks like. So, did Rick have a question?
Yes, I've had my hand up for a while.
Okay, Rick.
Go
ahead.
So, okay, I would hope that we would stop referring to what happened this year to what happened when the economy went to hell back in 07, 08. And I was on the board back then, and we did all the reviews, and I think it was 2 or 3 years that we went without a dollar. It's different conditions. There is no reason. I'm very angry. There is no reason that we did not get any funding this year, especially when they gave money to Flagler College, 2 grants for $70 million to butcher the interiors of that amazingly important historic landmark. Something is amiss here. Something is not working with this board, with this department, with the Secretary of State, and with the legislators or the governor or whoever's making these decisions to do these, I don't know what you call them, pig barrel or pork barrel, whatever you call them, and getting nothing. Here we are. We're going to go ahead and do this again in September, and we're going to spend a lot of time. We all spend a lot of time and effort to do this, to get another zero funding next year. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm not going to be able to continue to work on this board if that happens again next year. Those are my comments. I don't know what we can do about any of this stuff, but we've got to figure this out. This is not right.
Well, I think as a commission that we have a heavier burden on doing something, which really means lobbying our connections, which means I'll pull the coalition together again. We will use the grassroots process through the coalition, the statewide coalition of 6 organizations. And I think getting zero funding will will activate them and their networks more than they ever were before. And the principle or the process is that the trust produces the grants booklet. It's yellow, not pink, and it has a nice map in it. It has a one-pager on every grant application that we have approved in rank order. And we send that out electronically to the presidents of the 6 historical and archaeological organizations in the state. And we ask them to ask their members to visit with their representatives and senators and ask for funding for, if there's one in their district, that's even better, but funding in general, because we have the grants often will be in their district if there's not one in there this year. We, as a commission, have to do something different. If we don't, we might get zero funding again. Because zero funding brings more zero funding. No matter how much is in the budget, there's always people who want it. And so in order to, we have to sort of fight for it again. And that means contacting our connections. John, Brian, you on transportation, Parker, you with your connections, Michael with yours, Kathleen with yours. It means we're going to have to pick up the phone as commissioners and work our networks for it. We all have connections with the legislature or with their staff and lobbyists. We all do. It is on us to pick up the ball and work it. If not, we'll get zero again, and then we'll be in trouble. Right now, we had a fluky session. Right now, the clock ran out. We've got that. That's not our fault. But next year will be.
Judy, yeah. But it's a two-part problem, okay? First of all, we're paper tigers. The Florida Trust is a paper tiger. That little pink book does absolutely nothing. All right?
I disagree.
We got zero, and they gave $70 million to do a Holiday Inn inside the Flagler College. Have you been to Flagler College?
Yes, I have. And Rick, I agree. But that is past history. They didn't do that last session. They did that the session before and the session before that. That did not affect this year at all. What we have this year with the old-fashioned turkeys, that special category grants were instituted to eliminate or to reduce. The Flagler money is different money, Rick. I know you hate it, but it was done and it didn't affect us.
Well, it's bad precedents, Judy. It's very bad precedents, and I'm afraid it's going to continue. It's going to continue. I agree. May I please? It's going to continue, and then all our hard work is going to go down the drain again next year.
Well, it might and it might not, but we have to roll up our shirt sleeves and to try to do something about it.
That's right.
Okay.
And if we don't, then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But I certainly hope that with the coalition being re-energized and the commissioners being re-energized, that we can do something about it. When there is zero funding in special category grants, it's up to us. This is our big deal. Michael.
Well, my concern is that there wasn't zero funding. There was funding, it just didn't come through us.
And it wasn't right.
And it was special category money. That was that money. I would like, my own view is I think we need to write a letter as a commission to express our deep disappointment. It tells anybody who's interested in applying, don't waste your time with the application process. Go straight to your rep, and we'll run it that way. You'll have a better chance of getting the money. I think we need to express deep concern about, it's not just the work that we do.
So who do we write the letter to?
I think we write a letter to the governor and to the governor. We have to express we're appointed by the governor.
That's right.
Not all of us.
Okay. Well, I'm appointed by the governor.
Well, we know we got 3 people that we could actually write it to. They're making the appointments.
I think if I were writing such a letter, it would go to the appropriations chair and to start with. Maybe copy the governor on it.
And maybe there are some members who don't understand.
Because we're trying to save them work. The point, as Judy pointed out, the purpose of this commission's creation was to meet this need.
That's right.
And to avoid having be constantly dealing with individual member requests.
Right.
Unfortunately, a couple of years ago, both chambers, and this was probably maybe 10 years ago, both chambers started this project list process. That didn't exist when we were created. And when those project lists were created, it allowed them to begin offering or to ask for specific funds for these kinds of
Member projects, right.
Member projects, yeah. And so that was part of the reason I think this sort of dispersal of responsibilities is taking place.
And there are projects that I think are nervous to be put on the special category list, at risk of the list being vetoed. And so if they can go be out on their own and get funded, then they will. And that's what we're seeing a little bit of.
Some have done both, actually. Some do both, yeah.
I think that's true.
And I would say that we get these member projects every year. This is not new this year. And actually, we watch them as they come through, through session, and even before they start filing them, even before session, we keep an eye on what's coming through. We and cultural, arts and culture do the same because they get a lot. And there are actually more than, way more submitted than what actually gets in the final budget, right?
And then
So, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any great insights, but I don't know that we'll ever not have member projects because of what you just said, that it's just something that the legislative process allows.
It's embedded in their process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we need to do what Judy's talking about. I had some conversations with the appropriations side of the House in this process, expressed my concerns with deviating from a system that was established to prevent the turkey situations that we're dealing with. This was a really weird year.
It was.
And I have a feeling next year might be kind of weird too. But I'm not ready to quit, and we'll just keep working the issue and trying to get back to normalcy as much as we can, because I share Rick's frustration. I don't want to go through the process of ranking a list. I don't like the idea of everybody going through the hard work of going through our process, knowing full well that it might just be a waste of time. It isn't. And if we can get folks to understand, we need to return back to a sense of normalcy. If not next year, then the following year, then that's what I'm going to keep trying to do.
Right.
And I want to do a little research on how, because this process has been around since 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to do a little research legislatively or through, I guess it was HPAC probably that was reviewing those initially, and how that process was created and who created it. So I'll commit to finding that out.
Kathleen?
I think it might also be just an educational issue too, because we have such high turnover of legislators that when they are approached by a organization wanting funding directly, maybe they don't even realize that we have gone through this process of reading everybody's grants, sitting here for 2 days ranking them, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they don't even really have a full understanding that process is handled by us. And so they're just getting all these requests from their individual constituents. Oh, can you help us fund this project? So if we did a really good educational, something to make sure all of the members know that we exist, and B, why we exist, and see what we do for the grant portion of what we do.
Now. Seems to me that's something
we could do that. We could do that now. And I agree, we all have to do our own part individually, but I also like the idea of a letter from us as a group, because if we don't use the strength that this board has as a group, I feel like it is more, I feel like it says something to everybody, that there is a letter on file from this board as a commission, instead of just us working behind the scenes, which is also important.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But having a letter from the commission as a whole is then out there for people to see.
Just reminding them who we are and why we exist.
So last time we did a letter, we ultimately, I don't think we sent it. I think you and Rick spent a lot of time writing it, and God bless you for doing that. It sounds like we may do that again. Does this board want to do something modest, non-inflammatory, but basically sending it to the three individuals who make the appointments? So we got the Senate President, we've got the House Speaker, and we've got the Governor, in a joint, send it out. We got three recipients saying, hey, listen, guys, we need to return to normal. It's the extent that you need to think about this, because that's the purpose of even having it.
And I think the appropriations chairs.
And I think that's a very important one too, because they're going to be the ones that feed up.
And the head of the appropriations committee.
I think we need something, I agree with that. That should be done for sure, but I think we also need to remind the members, because they will be on conference committees.
Yep.
These members need to know who we are and why we exist.
Exactly.
So I don't know, sure, or something like that to describe why the commission was created and what we do and why we do it, would be helpful to distribute to all the members.
Committees are starting pretty soon.
Yeah.
This fall.
Yeah, right now.
So,
because they're going to be remember, they're going to be talking about budgets in November.
Right. So perhaps rather than a brochure, we can get a letter out faster than something a little more.
Something.
Go ahead.
Just based on you mentioned the last time we had a letter, legal, general counsel recommended that in the future, if there were a letter, that it would be written and presented at a meeting where you actually have the letter in front of you and vote on it publicly. Like,
we have a November meeting, right?
yes, correct.
Oh,
So that's
September meeting.
We have September in there.
Category.
We've got this meeting.
Well, we could add a business item to the end.
Okay.
On the second day.
Yeah.
I think Rick has his hand up. Still?
John and Rick have had their hands up, and Frank. So
let's go.
Okay, let's go with John, then Frank, then Rick. John.
Mr. Browning, I see that your microphone is open, but I can't hear you speaking. Is your computer microphone on? John, you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. If you'd like to type into the chat panel, you can read it out. You might try calling in. Might need to move on to Mr. Terra Firma.
All right, let's go to Mr. Terra Firma. Frank.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll just make a brief comment. Obviously the presiding officers, the governor, the appropriations chairs, and then, obviously when they go to conference, we don't necessarily know the conferee chair for this sort of this where we fall under for the funding, but those are really the key players in that process. But yeah, I think a letter saying who we are and what we do, maybe these folks don't know. I mean, they may not realize at all. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Rick?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, John, we got you.
Okay, thank you. My thoughts were to write a letter to the Appropriations Committee asking them that if a member is proposing one, that it goes for vetting through us so that we can solve any issues it may have.
Yes, partner.
Sure. How's the grid?
Oh.
A little too loud.
What do you think, Alyssa?
That would make it, the timing of this would be very difficult because the member projects will not be filed probably until November or December of this year for the next cycle.
Well, they are going to be, they're going to be looking at them. They're going to be talking about them in these committee meetings coming up, as you know. This, they will have in mind what they're doing, and I think that the appropriations chair at his meetings could announce easily that, look, if you're going to have one to come through, be sure and vet it through the historical commission. We just put it out there to as many people as we can so that we offer our assets to them.
Alyssa, you wanted to speak to that?
Well, I wanted to bring something related to your attention.
Yeah.
I believe it started last year. So the contracts that the grant award agreements that we provide to the grantees, if we receive member projects through our budget through that separate process, their contract is actually a different contract, and we don't have as much control over the actual work that they're doing and the Secretary of the Interior standards. So yes, in theory, like to have them vetted through the process, but at the end of the day, the contract that they're under is not as stringent as if they had gone through the list.
Okay.
That's part of the problem.
Is that right?
Well, is some review better than none?
Certainly, and you know, we have sort of a minimal compliance and review sort of review process, but you know, the architect review that we normally do and site visits and making sure all their, you know, window profiles are correct and all that sort of stuff, which is very important in our field, is not something that we have the ability to do on the member projects.
I will say sometimes the member projects, when you look at the request form, it might just be one paragraph that says it wouldn't really be enough for you to sufficient review necessarily, because it might just say reconstruct such and such building. Some of them are more detailed, but it's usually not more than a paragraph.
Right.
Not to be too pushy, but it sounds like we want a letter. It sounds like we're mostly discussing some of the content specific, but we know we want to probably get it out before committee. So who do we designate to take a stab at the first draft with connection with Angie and of course legal, so that we don't lose any valuable time?
Right, but then it would have to come back to us in September.
Of course, that's right. Which gives us perhaps another bite at the apple to maybe do some final draft edits if that's what we want, and then it can get sent off. So I guess my point is, Judy, do you want to take a stab at the draft?
First, we need a motion, then we need a second, then we need people to decide to write it, then we need to outline the points.
Sure.
If we want to do that, we can do that.
And I'll make the motion. And I might add that Alyssa has just recently said that she was going to do some research into the origins of this entity, this commission.
Yeah.
And that would be important to have that.
I can part that.
A part of the, share that with you, whoever's drafting the letter, to be sure we.
So I'll second that. Now we've got time for discussion, right?
Because you've already discussed it.
That's all right. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, yes.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
So I just wanted to add and reinforce that it should be a two-pronged approach. It should be one, telling what we do, why we do it, how hard we work at it, how we represent the entire state of Florida, and how we need to focus on preserving history in Florida in this day and age when everything is being paved and everything is being torn down or radically changed. Like one of our landmarks in our downtown, which was butchered this past year after 25 years of restoration work on this property. Number one. Number two, what harm they cause when they go and they have these little pet projects like Flagler College, and they end up with a Holiday Inn because they have no backup to check the work. I mean, the architect is not even a preservation architect for Pete's sake, working on that project, And also, I've reapplied for the ACHP. I'm waiting to hear. I think I'm going to get appointed, but I'm not 100% sure. It was supposed to have happened this week, so I was hoping to have a pleasant surprise, but I don't have it. They went through the same thing. They've slashed their staff. They slashed their budget, and you know what they did? They had a call to arms. They contacted every state, SHPO, every nonprofit, anybody that gets preservation funding, preservation technical assistance to write to Congress. And we need to figure out a way to do that at the state level. We need to, I think, educate them extremely well, because like Kathleen just mentioned, they're in and out 2 years or whatever, 2 or 3 years, and they're gone. And the next guy or gal comes in and they have no clue. And we have to do it every year before session, We need to figure out how to fix this. And I think it should go to the governor, to the Secretary of State, who's Alyssa's boss, and to the legislators.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay, I guess it's time for a vote. All in favor of the Florida Historical Commission drafting a letter, basically informing the legislature, key people, we haven't decided exactly who yet, but at any rate, some, if not all, of the members of the legislature on our commission, what we do, what we can do for them, what we do for Florida, and just a sort of I don't want to say a reminder, but kind of a heads up, if you will. All in favor of drafting such a letter, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, so it's unanimous. Thank you. So now we're going to draft a letter. I think we need to identify basically what we want to say first, as opposed to who we want to send it to. Let's think about that a little harder. I think the whole legislature, but on the other hand, I also understand key people really need to have it. There could be other things with the letter. There could be a brochure. There could be something else about not just the Historical Commission, but sort of the unusual and nation-leading special category grants program that we have. It is the best in the country. And it has done a world of good for Florida, how it spread money around the state, how it's vetted by professionals as well as interested lay people and public. And I think those kinds of points we need to make up front, and then how it affects them, the legislature itself. Mention that member projects first are not vetted, and that vetted projects are much more reliable, and they have a staff to implement the grantee to make sure it's done. That kind of stuff. Instead of, why didn't you fund us and what's going on? And stop these member projects. That's not going to get you anywhere. So those kinds of points, I think, are best to be made in the letter. Now, that's not all of them, and it's maybe in the wrong order, but something like that. John?
I would say it needs to be concise.
Yes, one pager.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So.
I'm not sure I'd mention the member projects piece.
Okay, maybe that's not right.
We're simply saying we're the experts on this. We have the staff to support our operations. We can do this well.
And we do it.
And we don't have a bias toward any particular member's project.
And it's a way to ensure that taxpayer money is spent in an appropriate way. That is not just thrown at, well, we won't say that, but spent in an appropriate and managed way. I think that they appreciate that. I know I would.
Yeah.
Right. So letters sort of to that effect. And,
all right, maybe you don't mention the pork barrels, but you offer the assistance to review their pork barrels to avoid, what's happened recently. I mean, $70 million was a lot of money to get very little review. And I know we have a staff architect now, but maybe even offer that, say, hey, we have staff, competent staff that are preservation minded, and we'd be happy to review for quality assurance, whatever you're proposing to spend on your own.
Well, that's a possibility. It is.
I do think that puts us in a little bit of a precarious situation because you all review the applications and you're appointed.
There's a way of diplomatically explaining the history of why we even exist and why the legislature who we're appealing to even created us in the first place to address the fact that, like, we don't want to go back to the old days. And
the subtext is our mission has been affected by this mission member projects business. We don't even have to say that.
No, we don't.
But it's implied.
It's implied.
Yeah.
That's right.
Inspire them to go back to
the right way to do it. Yeah.
So we all can't write a joint letter. That's too many people to write one document. And writing a letter by committee is possible if it's small. So I was thinking, John, I'd like your insight on it, whether you have to or would like to contribute to its writing. I think that your perspective is very important, and I'd like it on whatever letters we do send. Because sometimes, we get carried away, and yes, it's a point, but it's not to be made right there. I'm as guilty as anybody. And just take that paragraph out right now. So, Parker, would you like to work on it?
If I can, I would love to work on it.
Are you too busy? You can say you're too busy.
I am pretty dang busy.
All right.
The restaurant business is.
We'll all get to review it.
Sure.
Kathleen, would you help draft it? Would you? You've been taking good notes.
We won't take the rug out from under you this time.
And, say again?
Nothing. Go ahead.
But we got to make sure that we do it in conjunction with legal counsel so we don't violate.
Well, we can schedule probably a Zoom call that you all can be on the call together. And we can't assist you, but we'll notice it that you all are meeting together and, an hour or two, how long you think it will take.
Well, how about if Kathleen writes a draft, I take a look at it and get some input in it, and we send it to John, and at the same time, well, what do you think? What do you think?
Can't pass things to each other.
Oh, I forgot about it, yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So how do we do that in the meantime?
How about we have Kathleen draft, she sends it, we set up a small little Zoom, and at which point then we can all offer our input, it gets edited, drafted, and then we have something a little bit far more concrete.
Well, we're not really communicating with each other.
I know they're still, they don't like to have.
Is that right?
No passing notes.
I can't pass notes.
Okay, that's all right. All right. So let's do that. So the burden's on you first, and then send
Get your Starbucks gift card.
Well, Kathleen
Can't give you a gift either.
Kathleen can draft the first draft, and then she can share that with us. We can talk about it in September.
Right.
At an open meeting, make suggested changes, corrections, additions, whatever, and then agree to that.
Yeah, we can do that.
In an open meeting.
But that do.
Sorry, say that. So you're not going to have the Zoom meeting with the three of you.
You can't. It sounds to me like that's.
Well, you could have the Zoom meeting. You could have a Zoom meeting with like a committee,
Oh, we call it just a special meeting.
Yeah,
One
it just has to be
subject.
noticed. That's not a huge deal.
And you could make the public announcement. How much time do you need before?
7 days. 7 days.
7 days.
Well, we should
Okay.
do that
Okay.
before the September meeting so that
That's probably true.
so that everybody sees kind of a final draft.
Yeah, okay,
So that would be probably like the first week of September-ish.
okay.
Well, it might need to be later in September because.
Well, we've got the second week, but we're on the 24th, not 25th.
Yeah, just to give her time to do it and us to notice it. First week of September's almost here.
It is. It's the 15th. It's half over. But it's 2 weeks. We got 2 good weeks, cold weeks of August left.
So I'll have Cara reach out to you guys and maybe do a Google poll or if it's 3 of you, right? Okay, reach out to the 3 of you, schedule a time. How long would you like? How long do you think it will take you? An hour?
We will need it. Schedule it for an hour.
Okay, and we'll do a Zoom or a webinar, whatever, a little more secure. We like to use those, but yeah, we'll pick a date and a time and notice it. Is that fair enough?
Good.
So you may have a random person that shows up or
Well, no.
to listen to you. But
I'm used to doing those things, you know, on special topics, and things pop up. And I noticed a meeting in a bar once, because that's where these people were congregating.
Can we do that next time?
Yeah, and nobody showed up, and we had our little notice meeting. And everybody thought I was crazy, but it was totally legal. It was a public place. Yeah. It was a sports bar, but it was still a bar. Yeah. All right, good. Well, I think we'll take a nice step with that, and it's good. I kind of don't like to take a lick sitting down. You know, I like to stand back up and do something. And I think this is good. Thank you, Kathleen, for stepping up for that.
I have one more question. Yes. So on the September 24th, 25th, we'll have to add that as a business item. Would you like that more at the front of the meeting or the end? Knowing that people tend to kind of trail off at the end and leave.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning.
Yeah, we won't be tired.
And we'll be sure it only takes 15 or 30 minutes max.
Should be ironed
And
out.
people are there for 2 days anyway. Well, I know the applicants aren't. It's just we are.
Okay.
Okay. Good. All right. So now we've got. We've changed that? I mean, we solidified that. Now we go to the next agenda item, which a business item, which is the semi-sesquicentennial American 250th celebration. Angie, John.
Do you want me to go first now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Just a quick update on the grant for that project. Alyssa mentioned at the beginning that the Division of Arts and Culture received a $1 million appropriation to fund grants that support celebrations of America 250 and the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So it is in Arts and Culture's budget, but DHR helped quickly put together, we worked with them to put together a quick 2-page, this is what's eligible, this, how to apply, and a very short, compared to our normal application that has maybe 5 questions on it, in addition to the who we are and what we do, questions. And we opened a cycle for 2 weeks because the money is here this right now. So we didn't have time to create a long application cycle, and there was a lot of outreach and getting the word out. Got way more than we expected, 400 applications, essentially, like give or take 5 on either side of that. Division of Arts and Culture did a very quick eligibility review last week. So the application closed last Wednesday, October 6th. They turned around, their staff looked at them for eligibility, but mostly just focusing on the eligibility of the applicant. Were they a 501c nonprofit or a local government? And also they did do some looking at, did the purpose of the project actually meet the goal of the program? And after they did that eligibility review, we're down to like 366 applications. We do not have time to get a panel together and ask people to review those. So we put together an internal departmental panel of people from Arts and Culture, DHR, and the Office of External Affairs. The applications were submitted through DOS grants, so the system you're used to working in, and we're scoring them in that. The guidelines that we sent out had the scoring criteria on them. It's just 4 criteria. It's relevance to America 250, impact of the project, is your budget reasonable and allowable, and then quality of application. So we are really, and I am on that scoring panel, we are really working hard to get those done in the next week and a half. And it's a lot. Like, we feel your pain. Yeah. Well, we decided not to ask you to do it.
Thank you.
I know. But I've scored about a third of them this week. And there's some really good projects. There are some that are maybe a reach the connection to the purpose of the program. There's some really good ones. They're all from all over the state. So, and then once we have everyone is scored, and the system will create like a scores list, and we'll present that to the Secretary of State. And we're hoping that we can get start working on funded grant award agreements by the end of September. Do that whole vetting process and approval process, and start getting people their grant agreements in like late September, October-ish, so they can start working on them. Because obviously the grant period is going to be this fiscal year.
July 4th.
Yeah, well, really June 30th, but technically, you know, July 4th is what we're all heading towards. So,
do these grants have to have some connection with the revolution?
Well, that's one of the questions: is the relevance. Not necessarily a revolution.
We were not on the right side of that.
Right, no. Not the revolution per se, but the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So,
the revolution started before that.
Yeah. So, the ones that I've seen, you know, some of them are really, you know, came up with unique ways to deal with that, or, you know, and it's also not just the revolution, it's the
past 250 years.
Yeah, but like focused in that period, but like the ideals of the revolution, the charters of the country. Some of them do talk about, you know, oh, Florida wasn't on the side of the revolution, but we were part of it, and we did these things in our area, you know. So like there are some that do talk about the war and that period, that some that focus just on the Declaration, some that focus on concepts of patriotism. So it's a really across the board. Veterans. Veterans. So, and the project budgets could be from 10,000 to 100,000. So that's a really broad. So you're getting, it is interesting, you know, reading.
So you're probably talking 25 or 30 projects at the end of the day.
What would a statute like the Jefferson statute cost?
What did it cost?
What would it cost, or did it cost? Okay.
It was, this one in particular, our other ones are not as expensive, but it was $90,000. It was it was already made, so our other ones that we're getting are made after the fact, so we were able to work with the vendor on those.
And monuments and statues were allowable, so there are some applications for local monuments or statues as well. That I've seen already. I don't know how many, but.
Yeah, we have counties named after presidents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How many? 10? 15?
It's less than 10, I think.
How
Yeah.
many counties named after founders?
Yeah.
I counted it.
You did?
Yeah, I think we got like
So you were
6.
staff. Yeah. Is that right?
I think we got 6 or 7. Yeah. Franklin, Madison, Monroe.
Franklin's not a president.
No,
he's a founder.
He's a founder.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
And if we really want to get wild, Walton County was named after
Secretary of State.
Well, and his father was the signer in Georgia, along with Buzz Gwinnett. So.
Oh, he's the one who won the duel?
I think so.
Yeah.
Clearly. Yeah.
But I think these grants are going to be great. I mean, I don't know how it's going to shake out with the ranking, because with 360, I mean, who knows what's going to get funded, but there's a lot of good stuff that'll happen around the state that will get some funding from this project, this program.
Yeah.
So it will mainly be some kind of a monument or a statue or something that.
No, that was just one. Most of them are for more like programming or educational materials, but a lot of them are. It's kind of surprising what people can, you know, even in the 2-week period, how they came up with like programs and things that they could try to fit into this. Whether they did it successfully or not, we'll see. But it's across the board, all kinds of projects.
I mean, some of them are musical performances.
Yeah.
The application is actually the Division of Arts and Culture, so.
Yeah, there are.
Hamilton on?
We haven't seen that, but I have seen 1776. I think that it has more, from what I've seen already, it's more the arts and culture side. Then it's not like the preservation projects that we would look at normally. But I mean, educational maybe, but not brick and mortar or things like that. It's a lot of performances, public lectures, programming, curricula, and then also, you know, I have seen some statues and memorials, and a lot from the DAR, because there's a lot of DAR chapters in the state, a lot of nonprofits applied, and cities and local governments for what they want to do. So.
There are 4 counties named after U.S. presidents: Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, and Polk.
And Washington.
Washington.
Taylor.
Who was wrong?
They were wrong. You're in a room full of historians.
Point of order.
Yeah.
I'd like to let you all know, Rick Gonzalez has appointed soon.
Okay, we better wrap this up then.
But we did, and early on, when, you know, the governor has a list that he's proposed for the statutes that we're working on, I'll get into in a few minutes. But there was a longer list, yes, that included later presidents, and then we decided to focus on the Revolutionary period, so.
Why does it seem like Washington?
That's serious.
Was Washington County named after George?
Yeah.
Had to be.
And they didn't even know that one.
And Washington County, a lot older than some of the other ones in the Panhandle.
Well, Quincy is named after John Quincy Adams, so he was initially like a name.
What about Jackson?
Yeah,
I mean, but this is terrible.
Well, and the trouble with the statues and the public outreach side is all of them are really rural, so you're not really getting the best bang for your buck.
Making me nervous.
I will say that the Jefferson County statue unveiling was very well attended, and it was actually really great, and everyone's out in their red, white, and blue. And I think to speak to that, I think, you know, if you did some of these in a more urban area, I think they might get lost. But in these small towns, it is a really big deal to them. When I contacted Hamilton County, they were just like, well, we heard about it, but we didn't know we were getting one, you know, and they were just very excited. So.
Would Lafayette count? Or Lafayette, my bad.
He didn't make the final list. He was, again, tossed around, but.
Marquis didn't make it.
Not at this time.
No. I think that's Mayo. Is that Mayo, sir?
It would be Mayo.
I guess Adams.
I was in Mayo, Florida, not long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, they skipped John Adams. John Quincy Adams got a city, but John Adams didn't get a namesake.
Yeah. He was kind of a cranky guy.
So,
let's see.
Anything else about the 250th?
Well, yes, but let's let John go first with the capital.
Okay, John, you want to go first?
Okay.
Yeah. So I talked about it a little.
I'll wrap up with statues.
All right.
I'll be very quick. So the exhibit in the 22nd floor that we're going to work on, I'm excited to talk with Parker more and learn more about the West Florida exhibit. We're going to feature things from the archives, the museum's collection, the BAR collections, the state library collection as well. And there's been some marketing and different things done about the US 250 through Department of Transportation, through Visit Florida, and they've been putting out a lot of information about not just Florida during the Revolutionary War or during the Revolutionary period, if you wanted to go back and forward in time. And so our exhibit will be examining a lot of the things that have been echoed in some of the marketing materials, but it allows us to showcase some really cool things from different periods in Florida history. So I wouldn't say our exhibit will focus exclusively on the time period, but rather the more thematic ways that Florida history connects to those ideas would be the easiest way to explain it. And it'll be up in January, and you all will be coming to see it certainly when you have your meeting at that time, and maybe a couple meetings, and it should be tremendous.
Is it curated already?
No, we're in process of doing it right now. We're working on it actively. Yeah.
I mean, are you engaging at all with the Spanish Embassy?
No, we haven't done any real outside. The only person I've talked to Parker a little bit because he's extremely interested. But to answer that specifically, no, we haven't yet.
They have, I mean, there's just a staggering volume of material in the National Archive in Spain and other archival collections, including letters from George Washington and other things that are not well known.
They take great pride in helping our revolution.
And I wonder if
that's right.
I wonder if there's a way to get some high-res facsimile copies of a couple of really interesting pieces, and get the. I know the Spanish embassy would be interested. Even the Spanish consulate in Miami would be interested in participating in this. And I often feel like they're ignored in the whole.
Yeah.
You know, the French get all the attention, and we don't get much. And
I think it has become, for people who are unfamiliar with the history and some of the meetings that we've had, the role that the Spanish played in the siege of Pensacola in particular has become a topic of much interest. I saw actually some publications, Judy, I won't say what year they are, but with your name on edited volumes about this. Yeah. So, but there's a large case to be made for emphasizing that material because it points out why, again, Florida is unique and the strategic importance that Florida played in relation to some of the other action that occurred far outside of Florida, but where Florida and the decision to move troops here and there was influenced a lot by the actions of the Spanish and how that influenced the end of the war.
Both in East and West Florida.
Exactly.
There's a great deal of interest in trying to come up with strategies to capture the Castillo in St. Augustine.
And I think it's a good way to really underscore there's so many things in Florida that are unique, and we talk about them a lot. We talk about us, in Florida having the oldest mainland fortification at the Castillo. We have all these firsts and all these things, and we've done some of these campaigns before around marketing where Florida's also historic, right? It's not just beach, right? Florida is more than you think, and we have a lot of history to talk about with the tribes, certainly too, and they're involved in the revolution to a great degree, especially in the Georgia theater, as I'm sure those of you familiar with the history.
I do know that, so I'm on the board of the UWF Historic Trust. Our archivist has been working overtime because we're really, really swinging for the fences to showcase Pensacola, Northwest Florida, and Florida's place within the Revolutionary War era in time for the 250th celebrations next year, and he's reached out to, I'm not sure which ministry in Spain, but the answer generally is no. The logistics of loaning original items is a general no.
Yeah.
Unless it's something big. However, we can get you high res.
Yeah.
And he said they're really excited at the idea of doing that.
Dr. Francis, if you have some, even like a bibliography of some things you're thinking, in particular source material that we could request to buy, go through that, because I think that would be really interesting for people to learn about the diplomacy that was going on involving, Florida and Spain. And so if there are records you're already familiar with that you think would be great for us to include, that would be tremendous.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I'll probably also recommend at least reaching out to the consulate in Miami just to see if they want to participate on some level. My guess is they will say, absolutely, they do.
And Division of Arts and Culture has those connections. There are international arms, and they're on this committee as well, so that's great. That should work out well.
Great.
So we're working on it. Stay tuned. But we appreciate any kind of leads and insights that you all can provide as we because we have more than we can show, right? So we're going to be curating down to some of the best and the most interesting and the most significant things that we can show that get the most mileage.
I think correspondence between George Washington and the King of Spain is really, the public will take great interest in that. It was a deal, and that George Washington thought the 13 colonies could handle the revolution for 13, but if Spain would just kick the British out of Florida, they could have it back, and they did.
They got it.
And that must be great correspondence, Michael. I mean, you know, really. I think that would be really a facsimile of one of those kind of letters, the deal letter. And then the sending Galvez, you know, over. West Florida extended to the Mississippi River. And how he took, you know, first he took Mobile, then he took Pensacola, and I guess they just figured they never could take the Castillo. Yeah, right. I mean, they couldn't.
Wanted to.
I mean, you know, with that soft coquina rock, the cannonballs just sunk into the limestone walls, and so they couldn't knock it down. Yeah.
It's interesting to see so many people, though, would have argued with Washington that it was possible to acquire Florida, and then some of them were still alive in 1821 when Florida became a U.S. territory.
40 years, right.
And they were there to, you know, come down, and some of the early settlers of this area who were old enough to have participated were on young people at that time, but were eager to have seen more aggressive approach.
The empire was falling apart.
Oh, by that time,
and so the colonists that were, you know, once they kicked the British out, then they just flooded from the Euro-American colonists, flooded down into Florida and basically occupied it from the back door. And the people that are there now, the old families, are from Georgia, the Carolinas, Alabama, who migrated down and just squatted. Yeah. And did all kinds of things, but the only Spanish flags were in Pensacola.
For the Seminole Wars.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right, history lesson.
I heard my family did that.
Yeah.
So did mine.
Oh, got a Dustin over here.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so permeated with Southern culture.
Yeah.
Is that's where the roots of current population came from. Yeah, and they're proud of it.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, is that all on the 250s? And we quit giving history lessons?
I was going to wrap up this.
Come on, wrap it up. All right, good.
First, I did want, speaking of history lesson, I wanted to thank Parker Dustin, who came and spoke at our City Quincentennial Commission meeting back in July and gave us all a great history lesson on the Battle of Pensacola and what's going on with the Pensacola folks. So that was really well received, and I want to thank him again for that and for bringing all those documents and things today for us to take a look at.
What might be a benefit for the exhibit.
Yeah. So just to wrap up the statues, so you're all familiar, we installed George Washington in the Capitol initially. He's on loan from Mount Vernon. He has to go back to them in February. Since then, we have received permission. Governor DeSantis wrote a letter to Governor Youngkin, who's the governor of Virginia, requesting that we be able to reproduce our own George Washington, which will go in Washington County eventually.
Yeah.
And that's required for the sculptor to do that. The original George Washington is marble, and he is actually in the Virginia state capitol. So he'll be a replica of that.
Is that the Udon?
Yes. Houdan. I've died so on. So then we,
Chipley.
Yeah, so it'll be Chipley. I haven't reached out to them yet, but then the next one is Thomas Jefferson, which you saw, so that one was well received. The next one will be Benjamin Franklin. I'm told that they are finishing up in the foundry this week and putting the patina on him. So as soon as we can get him shipped, we hope to go down to Apalachicola. John's going down there on Monday to try to pick a spot out for him. And then the next one will be Hamilton. We have ordered Hamilton. He probably won't be done until December. So his is a little bit, these things do take a lot of months, especially if they're carved from scratch. The coolies who did the Native American out near the R.A. Gray building, they're doing Hamilton. So we'll be additionally working on Monroe and Madison. So they'll go in Monroe and Madison counties.
That's great.
And I think I hit all of them. Yeah, so there's 6 total.
We can't.
If I'm told to buy them, I'll try to work it out and figure out how to do that. So we're working out funding on the final 2. So it should be exciting. I think it'll be a nice thing, patriotic thing to do for people this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. So now we're up to other business. Is there any other business that to come before the commission? Yes. Do you? I do. Okay, your turn.
It's not anything we haven't heard before, but it disturbs me so much that I did want to just bring it up again. Our amazing staff and their abysmal salaries. And I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that we have such qualified, you already heard about the 2 positions lost. And staff did get a very, very tiny uptick in salaries recently, but attracting qualified people that are handling all these complex programs is very important. But even more important than that is retaining the people. Once they've been trained here and are doing all this stuff, it's really hard. We see high turnover. And I don't, a lot of our sections, I won't name them in particular, but a lot of the sections make less than $50,000 with advanced degrees. Some of the supervisors with doctorate diplomas are making less than $55,000. A lot of the, I'm going to name them, a lot of the grant staff make less than $40,000, and they're handling $100 to $150 million worth of projects for us. We have employees in this department that have been here 28 to 29, 30 years, making less than $50,000. That's astounding to me and depressing. And I'll try not to be like Rick Gonzalez and bring this up every single meeting, like the architect thing, but if there is anything we can do, I would like to know, because I would like to do it. Whether it's something we do individually, like the grant money stuff, or as a committee, as a team, that's crazy. We all know that Florida state staff in general is some of the lowest paid in the country. That's just how it... Not just DHR. That's not just DHR. It's just how it shakes out. But there are other departments within, there are other sections within Department of State that have similar salaries here, and they're only requiring high school diplomas. So, I'm sorry, most everybody here is diplomaed, masters, doctorates, and it's just it's so unbelievably unfair to me. I worked here 30 years ago, and I was making almost $30,000. 30 years ago. That's, I don't know, I'm yelling at you all, because you're just I am upset. I'm highly upset for them, and I just think it's a bit.
Madam Director? Yes. What do you think? Thank you. Thank you for the recognition, first of all, because, you are correct that some of the salaries are below industry standard. I wanted to address it from the department level, because it's not really a department decision. There's almost like, if you think of like a salary cap on a sports team, it's kind of like that. We get our funds from the legislature, we get contracted services, we get expense, we get, data processing, and we get salaries. And so that is the amount of money, and no matter how much cash we may have, that is the amount of salary we have to divide among everyone.
Oh, I know. I wasn't suggesting it was
for anybody listening, I wanted them to be aware that it's not like, we have this other money that we're, spending on statues, for example. That's not money we can spend on staff. It's because of the way the funds are appropriated. So I wanted everyone to be aware it has to specifically be in that category. That's right. And it's called spending authority. There's authority, and that's where we're at.
Kathleen, you're right, and much of this is driven by, I think it's the Department of Management Services system, personnel system. and it's, they have categories of employees, and everybody, they try to fit just everybody into some category. They don't always make a lot of sense, but that's where it originates. I think they're the ones that are making the key decisions as far as personnel salaries are concerned, which of course is under the governor. So.
And we have been through a recent exercise to reclass, so we don't know yet how that's going to, if it's going to help us or hurt us.
That could be a start.
It's something it's working on right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. We all feel that way, really. We understand how lousy it is. It's been that way forever, you know? And it's not just us, it's working for the state. All those people you see in all these other buildings, most of them make the same low salaries. But it is steady. There are good benefits, and it is satisfying. Mostly. Well, not it's fine. But it is, and it's kind of like working for a university. You know, you get low pay, but you get to do what you want to do, and you make a very modest living. And I always thought that was a pretty good trade. But other people don't, and when you look at it another way, we're being taken advantage of.
Also, it's an education thing as well, because we sit here and we get to hear all of your reports about what each section is doing, how much work is going into it, what grants is doing, what construction is doing, what archaeology is doing. Well, now with the limited staff you have, so, and we know the professionalism amongst the ranks, right? So, that is why I'm so mad. And maybe, you know, just whoever in that building has no idea what DHR does. Maybe that's an issue. I don't know. Maybe that's something we can help with.
Well, I know, and maybe it can be, but we need to be careful. You know, we don't want to get them in trouble.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you have to be careful. Who is the right person to talk to? Who is the right? And Alyssa knows the answers to that, and they're not good answers. You know, I don't know who. You know, if I were to wave my magic wand to get somebody to loosen up with their salary money, and salary money is the hardest money to get. It always is, and it's always your biggest expense. You know, why do you need all that money for those professor salaries? What are they doing? You know, they're working 12 hours a week and playing golf. And that's not true, but the perception is that. So, yeah.
It gets worse at the local school board level.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't live with that.
No. Well, how do you know I don't own a set of golf clubs?
I know, but I did for a while. But... Okay.
Did Frank leave the chat?
No, Frank, you had
Frank, yes, Frank, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, point well noted on the point that Commissioner Kaufman made. Just wanted, while we were on the subject of statues a moment ago, just wanted to remind or let everyone know, I don't think since the last meeting we had the unveiling of the slavery memorial, which is just incredible, and I didn't know if staff wanted to really comment on that real fast to us.
Thanks, Frank. Where is it?
So the slavery memorial, which has been in the works for a while, is installed right next to Union Bank. So if you remember where the tent was,
I do.
It's lovely. A lovely spot for it. And so it doesn't have any signage yet. We're working on actually designing the signage, and then we'll work with CMS to make sure that gets up. I don't have an unveiling date. I don't have any information on if there's going to be an unveiling, but I can tell you that our staff that works at Union Bank, they watch out for people, and if they see anybody around the statue, they go outside and make sure that they're helping, you know, interpret and tell them about how it got there. So we'll let you know if we hear of an unveiling date. Yeah. I'll certainly let you know.
Good. Thanks, Frank, for bringing that up. I'd forgotten about it. That's just because it's in the works. Yeah. Anything else anybody would like to say? New business, comments, complaints, concerns? Hey, we got them all. All right, thank you. If there's any public that is listening or in the audience, it's time for public comment. Anybody have anything to say? Yes, sir.
My name is Ethan Rain. Sure.
I can go to the end if you'd like.
Thank you. So my name is Ethan Ream. I was born and raised here in Tallahassee. I'm a lifelong fossil hunter. My dad got me and my brother interested in fossil hunting back in 2004. The main reason I wanted to talk today is basically in regards to when the museum might get opened back up. So obviously the museum downstairs, it's our official state museum. And in about two and a half weeks, it'll be 3 years since the museum was first closed. So for the last 3 years, no one's been able to visit. And obviously, there's a good reason for that. The renovations have had to take place outside with the plaza. My main concern, and where I feel like things have reached a critical juncture, is once the plaza is done, then my understanding is that's when renovations are going to take place to the museum itself, correct? So basically what I would like to see possibly happen is instead of, we do all the renovations to the museum and then we have a grand unveiling, which I know is ideal, to have that shock value to the public. Look, we've renovated the whole museum, it looks wonderful. Unfortunately, I've heard that tentatively it's going to take until 2028, 2029 for these renovations to take place. And so, obviously at that point, you've now hit 6 or possibly even 7 years where no one's been able to visit the museum. And what does that mean practically? So I taught middle school, I taught high school for a few years. A lot of the kids that I taught came from really broken homes. Some were sexual abuse survivors, many had divorced parents. The field trips that they got to go on were things that opened their personalities up in ways that I could never have imagined. People, some of these kids, 10, 11, 12, who, some would do their work, some wouldn't, but they sit there in class they have a sad face, a very, very sad face. And I had one buddy who went on a field trip with them, and, it was basically like going to Wakulla Springs. You had taken them out into the African savannah because no one had ever taken them to something like that. And unfortunately in Tallahassee, we don't have another good venue. There's Mission San Luis, which is great for kind of the building and the feel and the ambiance, but the museum is much more tiny and it's isolated to a specific point in time compared to the museum downstairs. And so, practically speaking, if the museum is shut for 6 to 7 years, you now have kids who have gone from kindergarten to now high school who have gone their whole life not having ever been to a museum that tells Florida's history. So my hope that I hope the commission would consider advising with DHR, working with DHR, is taking a more staggered approach to the renovations, opening it back up in the next 6 to 9 months, or whenever is possible due to the plaza, so that we don't run into the museum being shut down for 7 years. I was thinking about it, because quite honestly, I didn't even realize this museum had been shut down for that long until my wife was like, I wish I could take the kids to the museum.
It's been a while.
And I went and looked it up, and I was like, wow, you're right. The museum's been shut down before our 2.5-year-old was even born. And 2.5 might sound like, how could she really enjoy that museum, But for her, one of the things that she loves is whenever Dad goes out on the river and brings something home for her to see and to hold. Back in May, I found a mastodon tooth, and ever since then, it's been, Daddy, go find another mastodon tooth, or I want to hold the mastodon tooth, or, you know, we go to the beach and she's making little sand balls, and I'm making mastodon teeth, Daddy. You know, and it's these tangible connections, and so DHR's doing a lot of great stuff, especially with all the construction and all the renovations to all these different houses. Obviously, the lead abatement has to be done. Once that's completed, it's going to be a great building and great for use. But we also have to think more tangibly, what can we offer kids? And honestly, right now, with the museum being shut, I don't think we're doing as much as we can. And so I wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. I really appreciate, y'all listening. And I hope that maybe we might see more of a staggered approach to the
I hate it that it takes so long too. It does take that long, and the way the legislature works and the state budgets work, and Director Lotane can go on and on about it. And I'm surprised if they're even fixing the plaza, to tell you the truth. But she's got it. She's got the wheels in motion, and that's the important part. So you want to respond to that?
I can make a couple points. So. Unless you look at the floor plan of the building, you may not realize that probably, 80% of the museum is actually physically underneath that plaza. You've only got the prehistoric gallery where the mastodon is, and perhaps like the changing galleries that are sort of within the footprint of the wall of the building. So that part is obviously off the table. It's not going to be finished until December of 2026. Even after that, we've got to determine whether or not it's going to leak still before we can actually put anything in there. And then the other areas underneath the building, we've had to use for storage. So, it's not like we could just open the doors and those come out. You go see those as well. You probably heard the discussion on the budget earlier, the $15 million that we're requesting. We requested it last year, didn't receive it. So, we would have been a little bit ahead of the game, I think, if we had gotten that. And then the last thing I wanted to speak to, I want to open it as soon as possible, but the Museum of Florida History is carrying on other programs. As you said, we've got Mission San Luis. We've got kids that they still do bus tours. They luckily can visit the historic Capitol, Mission San Luis, and some of our other properties around town. So they still do come on those field trip bus tours, just not right here. And then we're also doing things like Second Saturday programs at the museum. They had a field day at the Grove. And again, I know it's not all of history, but we really, we're actually under accreditation right now, and we're actually, this is fresh in my mind because we're putting together a list of things that we actually are still doing as a museum to show that we're still should be accredited. So we really are working, I promise. A lot of it is just hampered by that plaza project, and
right.
A lot out of our control.
Just for clarification, I totally get everything is dependent upon the plaza.
Yeah.
But I guess I do want to underscore that the museum practically offers a lot of things that things like Mission San Luis in the summertime can't. Mm-hmm. Because what's the main thing that's different about Mission San Luis? A whole lot of it's outdoors. And during the summertime, 90, 95 degrees, it's a lot more difficult to take kids to something like that. I'm practically talking for my family. You could go to Mission San Luis and spend maybe, half hour to an hour, whereas you go to the museum down here and there's so much to see that you can spend hours down there and you're in the air conditioning. So again, I know if there's going to be a change or if a change is even possible to the timeline of this, I know it can't be decided on today.
Well, it was not. I guess that's my point, is that 6 to 9 months is not an option.
Well, that was more just a general.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is that, if we don't receive the $15 million, we do have an alternate plan where our staff would start to refurbish the areas on our own. So we do have an alternate plan, but we are looking at, 2026 before we can even really touch anything down there.
Sure. I guess just in closing, my main concern would be that the museum be closed until 2028, 2029, because I think at that point it does get to be excessive, and I'll just leave it there. I think it would be excessive.
Well, thank you for your concern, and I'm glad that you and your family appreciate it so much that you come and speak and say hurry up, and I agree, and but thank you for your time and your interest, and I would say put the kids in the car and go on some road trips.
Right.
Because there are great museums in Apalachicola, down in Carabel and other places that you might not go if there were this great museum still in place. That's what we did as kids. There wasn't any museums. We just got thrown in the car and taken to the nearest museum.
Or Yeehaw Junction, like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeehaw Junction, oh my heavens, yes, and get entertained. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I actually have a thought for you. So you've been here all morning, so I know you've heard how the legislature has sort of ignored some of the things that this board does and works on, and that's frustrating for us as well. But you tell a very compelling story, and not just about your own family, but about the underserved kids that don't normally have a free museum to go to. So it's a great story, and you have that background and that history to convey to other people. This is how their faces literally change with that experience, and this is what they come from and what they get to experience. Those parents aren't driving them out to another museum in some other city. Right. They're just not. Right. So take this story to some of the local legislators, okay, and say, hey, I know
that museum.
Say, I know you have a billion things going on, but because the $15 million didn't get funded to DHR for this purpose, it is pushing this opportunity out X number of years.
That's a good suggestion.
And we need the public, and we need people outside of this board helping tell our story and our mission. Not us, DHR. We need the public telling the legislators, this is important stuff to us. Please fund it. Please fund it. If you see this come up again, this is what's not happening because it didn't get funded this past year. So,
yeah. Their offices are right here.
Now is the time to do it.
Yeah. Right. They're not busy.
Before they go in session, get some time with some of your local legislators to talk about it.
And bring a crowd. I don't know what university you taught, and I don't know if I don't know what community you come from. I don't know if you have connections with traditional public schools, charter schools, or homeschools, but I would say the homeschooling crowd, which is basically one of the biggest groups now that exist from museum attendance standpoint.
Right.
They're very mobilized. They've got more power within the legislature than they've ever had. And these legislators, if you come in big groups, will listen to you. And you say, listen, our kids need access to this museum, and it needs to get funded. And if there are enough voices in the chorus saying that, you'd be amazed what might happen.
Yeah.
But I guess, I guess that's why I came to you guys first, because, ultimately, the best thing would be to get the funding. But we also know that the parents who give that is 50-50, maybe even less. And so, I remember back in the day, when they were adding in one of the new wings, essentially, it was just closed off for a long time. And that underwent renovation, and then it opened up. And so basically that's what I would like to see happen here, where instead of we renovate the whole thing and we open it, once the plaza's done, the plaza could take another 2 years. But once the plaza's done, we open it back up, and one at a time, we're shutting off sections temporarily. Again, I just want to throw this out there. I know it's more complicated. It's not an ideal situation, but 7 or 8 years, especially, so I was homeschooled. I grew up homeschooled. I was homeschooled my whole life. We plan to homeschool our kids. And so the second
to during the week, and, hundreds of other families in town are the same. So, thank you for your consideration for sure.
Thank you very much. Is there any other business? All right, then, I would say that we are adjourned. Thank you. And we will, work on the letter, and we'll see you in person next month.
Can we run to the restroom first?
Okay.
Okay.
When did your family move to Florida?
So Leonard came down